begin? You're in too deep to go back again. Cash is pay to play. You want more hits than lemonade. No, you don't own me. You don't even know me. This vagabond with a two-part path to the great beyond. Say genuine, a ground floor up I can help you find. You're a dreamer, call me when you're Bieber. And when they play it, you can't help but sing along. That's nothing odd, that's nothing wrong. 'Cause a good song never dies. It just reminds you of where you were the first time it made you cry, the first time you felt live. No, a good song never dies. Like a lover who won't back down, they pull you over to the side, look you straight into the eyes. No good song, no good song. The first time they made you cry, the first time you felt alive. No good song. A good song never dies. It just reminds you of where you were the first time it made you cry, first time you felt alive. No good song never. 'Cause a good song never dies.
Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of epic rapid fire racing action in the Alpha Touring Challenge Season 17 as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform, available only on PC and powered by both Syncmesh and Glass and Steel Photography and Design. We are back once again for another round of absolutely brilliant racing action, and here we are today for round number 3 of 12. We've made our way all the way to US state of Florida once again, and we are here at the Miami International Autodrome, a circuit only opened in 2022 to host Formula 1. It has gradually grown its use cases, playing host to plenty more racing action over the last couple of years, including none other than Porsche Super Cup. And its core is a 19-corner layout with 3.36 miles of tarmac, and where it is a circuit that makes its way all the way around the Miami Dolphin Stadium, also known as the Hard Rock Stadium. And as I try to get ready to take it on today, well, they won't be finding too much elevation change here on the streets of Miami. What they'll instead be finding is plenty of corner types, whether it be hairpins, chicanes, or sweepers, you name it, it's got it. And with some very long straights as well to offer up overtaking opportunities, our drivers here will need to be very quick on the draw coming out of the corners and ready to be brave on the brakes if they want to make moves happen. But who exactly is going to prove successful at the Hard Rock Stadium, and who's going to find themselves languishing in the back in the crowd? Well, that's what we're here to find out today as we bring you all the racing action as if it were live in this post-round broadcast. Indeed, the racing you're going to see occurred on Monday the 4th of May, i.e. yesterday, where we bring it to you as if it were live this Tuesday the 5th of May 2026, and therefore we do not know in the content booth who comes out on top, whether in the practice session that's currently ongoing, the upcoming qualifying session, or most importantly, our endurance race that is just around the corner. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this post-round broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight via the one place you can catch all the racing action from Season 17 of the AlphaTouring Challenge, and as of course on YouTube, go to youtube.com and search for Paul Walsh Productions or PWP. And you can tune in there. And in the content booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be your commentator and host for this season as we continue the story of the AlphaTouring Challenge. And what a season we have had so far. 2 rounds in. It's all been to play for thus far. Plenty of fresh faces on the grid today as well. We couldn't ask for a better way to head into round number 3. And in terms of our schedule for today, times in Eastern Daylight Time, that's EDT or Universal Coordinate Time -4, UTC -4, as we can see, and approximately what will be around 9 minutes time, we make it away to the qualifying session. 10 minutes in duration, due to get underway at approximately 9:15, and we'll see all drivers out there with 2 flying laps looking to go for pole position. Albeit pole position may not be too key around here, given the fact there's plenty of overtaking opportunities available. A strategy could also be key, because when we do come to our race, it's going to be a 45-minute endurance race, slightly shorter than our endurance race that we opened up the season on, but we do have these varied 60 and 45-minute endurance races, and I have heard there's plenty of rain expected to be on the way during the race, and that's definitely going to serve to open things up even more, and that we're due to get underway straight after qualifying at approximately 9:25. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring you up to speed with the story so far, and in particular the headlines from round number 2. For as we can see, as we take a look back at our calendar, we made our way last time out to St. Petersburg Grand Prix circuit. Indeed, we've been staying in the US state of Florida for a 2nd round in a row, and we're making its debut last time out. What exactly did we get to see in our first 2 sprint races? Well, St. Petersburg definitely did not hold back. Much like the Detroit Grand Prix at Bellwire on the season opener, I get the feeling it's going to become one of those circuits that's going to become a mainstay of the AlphaTouring Challenge, because for a street circuit, it pulled plenty of drama and pulled plenty of punches. We saw plenty of battling action as well across our 2 races, but with the drama, there was some big incidents in both races, and with that really opened up several doorways to some drivers who always may not have thought they were on course for a huge result. But in qualifying, where it was all about Michael Polasek returning to the top of the field with what was pole position by 0.32 seconds ahead of a very impressive 2nd place overall for the Gamma pole sitter of Fleet Smith. And it was very tight throughout the rest of the field for a 2nd through 24, separated by a single second. And we did see Ty Long delivering a very strong lap for Delta pole position, 2 tenths faster than Zach Hudarko, who coming out of Detroit, of course, was looking to be the finest in form. But in race number 1, there are several big incidents which caused the field to split, particularly on the opening lap. But there were also incidents later on, and in particular in the Delta class, we saw Tyler Long's lead fall into disarray on what was laps 9 through to 11. We seemed so set for the Delta win, and it was that Hudarko was able to take it away for him, being 2nd best in class up to that point. And therefore Hudarko, taking the lead on lap number 9, walked away with it, and taking his 2nd win of the season, was hoping to make it 3 in a row in the 2nd race, but more on that very shortly. Meanwhile, in the Gamma class, we make our way upward to the field. Well, Fleet Smith looks absolutely dominant, but in the end it was John Lauzon who took the win. He missed out on the class pole position by 2 tenths. However, what happened in the race was there was a major demise for Fleet Smith on the open lap, and then John Lauzon was able to move his way forward, and particularly on lap number 3, it all went wrong for Smith. It didn't quite work out on number 1, but lap number 3 saw Smith fall down the order, and so John Lauzon was able to take that comfortable win ahead of Ian Bertolucci, who finished 12.6 seconds behind him. And as for the overall winner, well, it was Michael Polasek. Took pole position and then just ran away with it. Although you could say it was aided a little bit by the battle between Wojciech Swirydowicz and Logan McKinzie for 2nd place, but he still had to put in the hard work to run away and take his first win of the season. And then race number 2, well, it was a calmer start by comparison with race number 1, but we still saw some huge incidents, including a huge smash for Eli Sarsak on the opening lap, and also we got to see a big incident for Micah Hendricks on lap number 9. However, overall victory went to Ray Tiu, his first overall win, and what an overall win it was in the end, making sure that after starting in 4th place with the inverted top 15 grid, we was able to move into lead and run away with it. And a first overall win for him in his career, and he'll be looking forward to seeing if he can make it another one today. In the Gamma class, it was Zachary Bowman in the end, who started on overall pole position and prioritised making sure that he took home the Gamma win above all else, and in the end was able to finish 3rd overall, even though he was being furiously chased down by Mike De Almeida in the 2nd half of the race. And as in the Delta class, well, it should have been Zach Hudarko, many would argue. He was very comfortably ahead of his peers. However, a huge shunt to the barrier on lap number 17 at turn turn number 9. Suddenly saw him retire from the race, and it handed the lead over to Gareth McAllister, the man who had started on pole. And for Gareth McAllister, it was a special day for him, a double podium and his first ever Delta career win in the AlphaTauri Challenge. And he was absolutely ecstatic and emotional when he got out the car. And it was an emotional day as well for him and his team at Yumata Motorsport, because they took their first double podium in the first racer day as well, and therefore huge points coming their way. But here we are today then. It is time for round number 3. It is an endurance race, 45 minutes of race in action on the Miami International Autodrome. And next time out, we remain in the USA, but make our way to the Biber Motorsports Park. New since its refresh, and indeed, we've got new circuits on the calendar, no doubt about it, including, I do believe, this being the debut of the Miami International Autodrome for this series as well. And, well, sure, I'll be informed if I'm incorrect, but either way, we're looking forward to seeing how our drivers get on at the Hard Rock Stadium. So speaking of which, let's tell you a little bit more about it in terms of the circuit. And a big thank you to the AlphaTauri Challenge administration for their wonderful cheat sheets. And as we can see here, this is one of our longer circuits on the calendar, spanning 3.36 miles or 5.4 kilometers. But given the fact that this series is hosted in North America, we're going to stick with good old miles. And as we can see there, in terms of our ratings for this circuit, tyre stress relatively high, 4 out of 5. This is one of those circuits that's definitely going to lean very heavily on the front tyres, particularly with the number of sweeping sequences, including turns 2 all the way through to 8, and also the very tight run of turns 11 through to 16. You've also got some very heavy braking zones out there as well, and that's why we do have a rating of 3 out of 5. The heavy braking zone at turn number 1 will see early traffic jams, but also the heavy braking zones, I should say, in turns 11 and 17, particularly turn number 17, which is right at the end of a very long back straight. And given the fact that's almost a kilometre long, that back straight, you can definitely see where it's taking inspiration from a Hermann Tilke design. That being one of the characteristics of European design circuits, of course, that has translated to fresher circuits in the US of A, such as the Circuit of the Americas and also the Miami International Autodrome, is in the fact you have a 1 kilometre long back straight, or approximately 0.7 miles in length, if my memory serves me correctly. But as we do see our drivers take on this circuit, what about overtaking difficulty? Well, the good news is this gets 2 out of 5. It's not too difficult to overtake around it. Yes, there are some places where you don't normally want to go too wide, particularly the run through turns 11 through to 16, although battling under braking into turn number 11 is definitely going to be key, and you see overtaking opportunities definitely possible at turn number 17 and also at turn number 1, but because it is a sharper right-angled right-hander, it's not going to be as easy to make moves, and you can also go too wide all the way through the sweeping sequence of turns 2 through to 7 for those who dare, but of course you want to be on the inside coming in towards turn number 8, given how tight the apex will be. And that's off-track difficulty, where it's a 2 out of 5, because this is a street circuit, but it also does have plenty of runoff areas subject to where you are on the lap. Indeed, plenty of runoff areas through turns 1 through to 8. But by comparison, the run down turns 8 through to 11, and also the run on the backstretch will not have any runoff area, but we do also have some significant runoff area coming through turns 18 and 19. As for the tight section turns 11 and 16, we do have a little bit of runoff area there, but you've also got some very high curbs, and expect our drive suspensions to be shaken out should they run wide. As for pit entry, it's a difficult one, given the fact they have to essentially come off the road out to turn number 18, and they've got a very tight entry in through turn number 19, parallel to it. And as for pit exit, it's also a challenging one, given the fact that our drives will come out adjacent to the rest of the field, coming out of turns 1 into 2, and therefore they've got to rejoin the field on what is a very tight pit exit line. But definitely a challenging circuit around here. Remember, as this is an endurance race round, we've got a slightly different rule set today, and therefore let's bring you up to speed with regards to those rules, because we don't have too many of our symbols on the diagram. We can see where our early traffic jams may be, particularly turns 1, 7, 11, and 16, and we talked a little bit about our best overtake opportunities, but no past instance, given the fact this is our first time out here. But as for our rules then, car setup wise, it's an open setup series, as always, the AlphaTauri Challenge, which means our drivers bring a setup of their choosing to each and every race session. When we do go racing, we shall see the race commence via a standing start as an addition of touring car racing, and particularly in the ATC. Drivers must change at least 1 tyre during the race. Now, this is going to be very interesting here today with that mandatory tyre change, in the fact that if the rain does become significant enough and drivers opt to start on the slick tyres, well, when we do see the rain arrive, they'll most likely go to the wet. So therefore, you don't want to come in until the rain does arrive, because otherwise you'd have to do a double stop, because you'd end up changing from slicks to slicks, and then you need to change from slicks to wet. So therefore, this could be a race today where it's a little bit about survival on the tyres. Now, each driver has 1 fast spare available should they need to use it. And the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 15 more instant points. Should they get to 30, they will be disqualified, but hopefully we don't see that. And all race shooting shall be conducted post-race as always. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way back to circuit side and see exactly what the standings look like then coming into this round. And so we begin, as always, with the overall Drivers' Championship standings. And here we can see Michael Polasek has now taken the lead for Yellow Flag Motorsport. He looked a bit off the pace at Detroit in the season opener, but he definitely was on the pace at St. Pete, and therefore he's moving into lead by only 4 points ahead of Logan McKinzie. The Pennzoil Super Touring driver also looked very rapid out there, and the same can be said for Wojciech Swirydowicz. All 3 of our leading Alpha drivers, whether it be for Yellow Flag Motorsport, Pennzoil Super Touring, or Beaver and D's. And we should point out that the Wojciech Swirydowicz racing for the team, we had a bit of a clerical error last time out in the round 2 2 broadcast, where we did show Wojciech Swirydowicz as racing for breakfast and dinner. They are not on the grid for this season, and we do apologise for the confusion there. But all 3 drivers really got to grips with the debutant circuit, and therefore there was very little that separated them over the distance. Ray Tew sits in 4th place for Beaver and D's teammates of Swirydowicz for this season, and definitely finding his feet in the Alpha class, being promoted up there after his glory in the Gamma Championship in Season 16. And we do see Francois Schink completed that top 5 for Curview Abusers of Autosport or SIA, and right now still needing to find just that little bit more pace compared to his rivals. Cooper Akers sits in 6th place, leading Gamma driver at the moment for Pennzoil Super Touring, and he is 16 points ahead of Mike D'Almeida for Yellow Flag Motorsport. But you're going to see, when we look at the Gamma standings, that it's very tight right now between them, and also the fact it is getting excruciatingly tight at the very top of the Gamma class, with Matthew Shepka there sitting in 3rd of the class for Kirby Enthusiasm Autosport in 8th overall. Chris McDonald had a bit of a difficult day in the office for Croc Promotions, and therefore he needs to now get himself into first gear once again. The Delta driver come Gamma driver this season, but he's ahead of John Lauzon, the Beaver and D's driver, who definitely was looking very quick in Gamma, and that's helped him out considerably, as you'll see very shortly when we do a look at the Gamma standings. SRG's Matthew Meilleur was not on the grid at St. Petersburg, so after taking the season opening win in Detroit, missed around. That's become his drop score, his first drop score of the season, and therefore we look forward to seeing him back on the grid today. Although, is he here on the entry list? Yes, he is, which is good to see. We then do see John Daniels in 12th place ahead of Micah Hendricks. Unfortunately, I do believe Micah Hendricks not having the happiest of days at the office in Petersburg, and in practice so far, he's not been looking too quick here at Miami, so therefore he's still got a bit of work to do, the 73 driver, it would seem. Zach Hodako sits in 14th, leading Delta driver, and definitely was a missed opportunity to make it 3 wins in a row, but still leading the championship there, and that gap is a little bit more grander when you do look to the Delta stand shortly. Fleet Smith, well, given all his heroics at what was qualifying last time at St. Petersburg, the races didn't match up to it, as sadly he sits in 15th place at the moment for B4Ds ahead of Tyler Long, and behind the T0 Racing Ascent try, it's Gareth McAllister, Fred Al Ridgely, Major Monswite, and Zachary Leopold who complete your top 20. Outside the top 20 in the Alpha Championship standings, we can see Mitchell Richmond 21st ahead of Austin Dunbar, 3 points separating the pair. Damon Mitchell still trying to move his way forward there for Crop Promotions on 95 points, but the best part of 9 ahead of Evan Clavio, and Jason Lynn completing your top 25. 5 points behind him after the difficulties of the day in race number 2 at St. Petersburg. Eli Sarsak falling to 26, but still ahead of Carl Trost by 2 points. And it's a further 2 points to Christian Ost and the same to Kurt Smith. Crystal Ondra completes the top 30 for Junk in the Trunk Electronicas ahead of Lewis Gilbert. And we do have Aaron Lahr, Benjamin Andrews, Jess Rakowski, Jamie DeJoux, Jonathan Lantin, Jalen Kuo, Jeremy Barber, Michael Bowman, and Joshua Bibb completing the top 40. Although we should point out, in terms of the Alpha Championship points, it is Jess Rakowski who has the final set of points to their name with 18, and it's 0 points to the rest of the field currently, and we can also see that applying outside the top 40 for Mark Darnell, Angel Manila Soto, and Nathan Hemperley. But what about the Gamma class standings, I hear you ask? Well, here we take a look to what is our second tier of drivers in their defined championship, and it's Cooper Akers who leads the way by 25 points over Mike D'Almeida, and right now the Pennzoil Super Touring driver definitely found that whilst he was one of the quicker drivers in Detroit, well, last time out at St. Petersburg, he was decent, no doubt about it, but Mike D'Almeida definitely was the fast and furious driver on the streets of St. Pete, and Matthew Shepka was also looking good for SIA. So both right now, second and third place drivers, definitely finding the form, and Akers will need to step up his game today. Chris McDonald as well had a bit of difficulty at last time out in round number 2, and had a bit of bad luck, so the Crop Promotions driver not quite able to make a dent into the top 3, but staying ahead of John Lauzon, the Beaver and D's driver, has catapulted himself up into 5th place after what was a bit of a slow day at the Detroit circuit in our season opener. John Lauzon took the most points in the class at St. Pete, and therefore right now moves to 5th. Can he break his way into the top 3 after this round? Now, behind the Canadian driver is John Daniels there, the battle of the 2 Johns of the T0 Racing Summit team. He's on 200 points, 16 ahead of Fleet Smith, with Major Monswite, Zachary Leopold, and Damon Mitchell completing your top 10 and all your Gamma drivers. Then coming to the Delta class, last few but by no means least, and here we can see Zach Hodako for T0 Racing Ascent. He still leads ahead of Tyler Long, and whilst he did have that retirement, unfortunately, from what was at race number 2, it has not scuppered his ability to lead the way. And Tyler Long, of course, after looking so good in what was qualifying and in race number 1, if he'd not had that instant in race number 1, could it have been a day of a double victory and potentially the maximum possible points he could take, particularly those 8 bonus points for both wins? Well, unfortunately, it was not in the end for the 767 driver, but he never gave up. Gareth McAllister, meanwhile, with that double podium in his first Delta class win of his career, Umata Motorsports driver moves into 3rd, and he's ahead of Fred Al Ridgely for SRG by the best part of 21 points. Mitchell Richmeyer completes your top 5 for Umata Motorsport, and indeed the Umata team really enjoying such a strong day, and they've moved into the top 5, both drivers, and Austin Dunbar is 4 points behind in 6th. And then do have Evan Clavio sat in 7th place for Sim Racing Grid, 5 points ahead of Jason Lynn. And we do cite Eli Sasak and Carl Trost completing the top 10, with both drivers yet to really hit their stride. And you've got to feel for Sasak, who was looking increasingly competent at St. Pete, but unfortunately, a major incident in race number 2 really knocked all the competency out of the window. In 11th place, Christian Oster for Problem Child Motorsport, only ahead of Kurt Smith based on result countback. And then we do have Crystal Onder ahead of Lewis Gilbert and Aaron Lahr to complete your top 15. Benjamin Andrews is 16th ahead of Jess Rakowski for T0 Racing Summit, and a shout out to Rakowski as well. Looked very quick in qualifying, but unfortunately, the major incident that she experienced in what was race number 2 and saw the T0 Racing Summit driver fall down the order, and unfortunately the Canadian driver had to reset and go all again today. And then we do have JB Dejoux in 18th place there, no points to his name, nor the same for Jonathan Lantin, nor for Jaitlin Kuo, and the theme of 0 points continues there, with Jeremy Barber, Michael Bowman, Joshua Bibb, Mark Donnell, Angel Minnesota, and Nathan Empley all waiting to score their first points of the season. But in the Teams Championship, starting with your overall teams, we can see Beaver and D's on top currently on 707 points, ahead of Yellow Flag Motorsport, we've got 649, and the battle is on between them, plus also Pennzoil Super Touring. We've got 3 main belligerents, it would seem, so far, but it's too early to announce our favourites in the Teams Championship, but it's definitely heating up at the top. And then we do have Kirby Enthusiasm Autosport, sat in 4th place currently on 528 points. They've got a bit of a gap there to Crop Promotions to the tune of 102 points, but they're also almost the best part of 110 behind with the leaders, with the leading trio, we should say. So therefore, Kirby Enthusiasm Autosport need to find a way to move forward, not backward, and Crop Promotions will look to do the same to break away from T0 Racing Ascent. They in turn are only 7 points ahead of S-Shark G, with T0 Racing Summit in 8th place. And then we do have Umata Motorsport moving into 9th ahead of B4Ds. That's your top 10, and Sim Racing Grid are only the best part there of 33 points off of the top 10. But in turn, they're starting to pull away from Problem Child Motorsport, with Gator Racing and Junk in the Trunk Electronicas completing those with points they're named. And from the 67 points of Junk in the Trunk Electronicas, it's 0 points for Penguin Mafia and Waifu Lo Naifu. We then do have in the Delta Class Teams Championship, where's a standout lead at the moment for T0 Racing Ascent. They do have an advantage there to the tune of 105 points over Umata Motorsport, and Problem Child Motorsport meanwhile languishing a bit further behind there to the tune of what is the best part of 100 points. S-Shark G sit in 4th there, and right now staying on the heels of Problem Child Motorsport. They in turn are only a single point ahead of Gator Racing, with Sim Racing Grid, B4Ds, Junk in the Trunk Electronicas, and T0 Racing Summit completing your team's championship standings for the Deltas. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, that's a summary of how we go into round number 3, and as we pick up proceedings, it's time to make way into qualifying and see who exactly is going to a pole position here. As the drivers all cool on down, they'll be called to the pit lane, and then they'll make their way back out for what will be the out lap plus 2 flying laps. And so we transition into qualifying, and the cloudy skies give way to sunny skies for a brief moment. But who's the sunshine going to shine on the brightest? That's going to be the big question. Now, of course, we are in the sunshine state of Florida, and as our drivers make the way on out this circuit, and indeed, the conditions here are no stranger to a bit of variety. And if anybody did tune into the Formula 1 Grand Prix held at the Miami International Autodrome over the previous weekend, you'll know they actually had to bring the race time forward by 3 hours to avoid potential thunderstorms. Now, that's not to say we're going to be doing that, or we're expecting any thunderstorms of any description, but it goes to show you the fact that it can be quite unstable weather in Florida for this time of year, even though it is in the height of spring. But either way, the weather does have higher variability, and that's why we are expecting some rain to arrive in the race at some point. But how heavy it will be, we'll have to wait and see. As Matthew Meilleur makes his way around, well, we need to introduce 3 new drivers to the grid today, and we've definitely got some new fresh faces that are going to serve to mix things up. Starting off in the Gamma class, we have this man making his way around in none other, the 250 machine. It is a Hyundai Veloster there, albeit these cars not too popular for this season compared to how they previously have been, but it is going to be none other than Nicholas Shvedska, I should say, who joins the grid, and a huge welcome to the Gamma driver, and he'll be racing as part of, and hopefully I don't butcher his surname too often, Shvedska Racing, and we give him a warm welcome there. We look forward to seeing what Nicholas can do in a very lovely liveried machine. And can he show the Veloster's strengths off here today? We'll have to wait and see. We also do have another new Gamma driver on the grid, and that being the form of the man with the double-barreled surname, and that is Alexander Gonzalez Green, who joins as a privateer in his Audi RS3 LMS Gen 2 car. As he heads on around here, we're very much looking forward to seeing how he gets on in the number 11. So he will be in the silvery, shining grey machine, and all the best of luck to Alexander as well. And we also do have a newcomer in the Alpha class, and here he is, Jacob Simmons, in the number 7 Honda Civic Type R FK8, as he makes one around another privateer, and a warm welcome to Jacob. And I do love the fact our 3 newcomers all using 3 different TCR cars. It shows you the fact the balance performance of these cars definitely is nicely set, and that way we do have car variety. And one of the great things as well about racing in the TCR category, or the touring car racing category, and iRacing, indeed around the globe in real life as well, is there's plenty of car variety out there, whether it be in TC America, TCR UK, or the World TCR Championship. And also the fact the balance performance really means it comes down to how you feel with the car as a driver. There is no one car to go to. They all have the strengths and weaknesses, and despite the fact we have seen a considerable balance performance adjustment since the introduction of the updated physics engine and tyre model for these TCR cars, well, the Honda's still very much at the heart of, if you want to be the king in the corners and the best on the brakes, take the Honda, but you are going to be languishing on the straight. It does seem as though the Hyundai Elantra is still the king of the 1-lap pace, plus also the straight line speed now compared to the Audi, which has fallen back a little bit, but the Audi does have a bit more confidence in the corners compared to what it used to be, and the Hyundai of Veloster still the jack of all trades, master of none, as Jacob Simmons goes on to his first flying lap of his ATC career. Indeed, several drivers do, including Gonzalez Green, as he makes his way on around, and the Mexican driver here just making his way up towards turns 7 and 8, having to use all the road then, just about keeping the inside tyres within the white lines. The track limits are very, very clearly defined, which is that you can stay within the white lines, but when you do get to those curbs, those painted orange and white curbs, you are allowed to run all field wheels onto them, so long as 2 wheels that stay on the curbs at some point. So you've really got to abuse those track limits as much as possible, as any racer would, because at the end of the day, that's what all the lap time will be found in the dry at least, and we're expecting a fully dry qualifying session. Or drives on slick tyres then, as we do see Gonzalez Green making his way in towards turn number 11. We'll get an onboard lap on the second flying lap for our drives, given the fact, of course, they do take the out lap, plus their first flying lap to get some tyre temperature, and then after that, it's all going to come down to that final lap shootout, if you will, although this first lap can be a good representative banker lap. But as we do look to Matthew Shepka make his way down the back straight right now, this is where we're going to see plenty of slipstream-based battle in action. Wouldn't be surprised if we get 2, 3, perhaps even 4 wide, given the way this straight opens up before they do get to the turn 17 hairpin. Well, Shepka right now, we're doing it peacefully this time, but of course in the race it could be far less than peaceful. And we do have the best part of approximately 35 drivers who have made the trip today to Miami International Autodrome, which is absolutely brilliant to see here. Completely stacked grid, and as Shepka makes his way out to the final corner, we do look to other drivers going on to a flying lap, and indeed onto his second flying lap. It's going to be Carl Trost as he heads on around. Let's jump on board with him for a flyer. He's making his way down towards turn 1 in the Hyundai Elantra for T0 Race and Ascent. And as he does so, onto the brakes there. 150 metres of corner apex all the way down the gearbox to second gear as he comes through with the right-hander. Keeps in the middle road to open up left-hander at turn number 2. Swing from left to right here. It's all about car positioning. A little bit of throttle goes in, not full throttle initially, to avoid understeer. And now picking up the speed as he makes his way through turn number 3. In towards the sweeping S's of turns 4, 5, 6 and 7 then. Onto the brakes he goes, about 75 metres of corner apex. Drop a gear, chuck the car into the corner, and in fact holds 5th gear there to prevent wheel spin. Makes his way now through the right and in towards the left to turn number 7. And as he does so here, a long left-hander that gives way to another much tighter left-hander at turn number 8. And it's all about patience to hit that late apex, and Trost doing that perfectly there as he now makes his way out. He's allowed to run close to the wall as he now heads on towards the sweeping straight at turns 9 and 10. There are 2 corners in here, but he'll be flat out every step of the way, even when you are running too wide. And as he makes his way along here, now heading towards the Kinker 10, he's getting ready for the braking zone at turn number 11, the tightest section of the circuit. Looking to his right-hand side for his brake mark, and it will be the boards up there, most likely the yardage boards, and he will be braking at what will be, in fact, their meterage boards. Now, I correct myself, braking at the 150 metre board all the way down from top gear to second gear, going for the left, and now into the right-hander at turn number 12. Keep it nice and tight here. You do not let the car creep away because it's a very long corner. Now over to the right to open up turn 13. Now into the blind rise. The only elevation change on the circuit, turns 14 and 15. You go straight over the 2 curbs, drop down over to the right hand side and open up turn 16 as much as possible. Clatter the curb if you feel confident, and then on to the backstretch he goes. Full throttle now. As Trost makes his way down towards turn number 17. At this point, you've got to hope that you've got it absolutely right coming out of turn number 16, because every mile now you've lost out that corner will be amplified here in the run all the way down to the next heavy braking zone. The good news is he can now gather his thoughts for a brief moment and get ready for that heavy braking zone, the last on the circuit. And we're breaking out what will be the 150 metre board, coming all the way down the gearbox to second gear. And as he makes his way at the apex there, 48 miles an hour. But now coming on towards what will be turns 18 and 19. Left into right he goes. And for Carl Trost, it's been a very smooth lap, no doubt about it. But what's it going to be in terms of his lap time? That's what we're about to find out. He was 14th, and he will jump up to 12th at 207.264. But more times being found by other drivers here. So will he remain the pole sitter in the Delta class? We will have to wait and see. If so, it'll be a very commendable lap from Trost. and he has had some great moments so far, but he's yet to take his first Delta pole position in qualifying, as far as we understand it, in a qualifying session, not in any grid inversion. So we look forward to seeing whether Trost can make the magic happen. But as Wojciech Swirydowicz heads on down, and this will be the first pole position for Trost this season, because I do believe he did pick up pole at what was Sebring last season, but the strategy didn't work out there. Well, Wojciech Swirydowicz currently your pole sitter overall on a 205.996. Remember, that was on his first flying lap. And well, he's still at the breakfast for dinner livery on the car, but he is racing for Beaver and D's. Well, I think just paying tribute to the team he's previously raced for there, which is no problem about that. It's always good to see the team being represented. And then towards the line, can the number 80 driver go even quicker here? Now, we don't have a Michael Polasek on the grid today, and also Micah Hendricks here, but not currently out in qualifying. And Swirydowicz goes even quicker. 205.789. He'll be very happy with that. Logan McKinzie makes one down, but he's going to park up there. He's not happy with this lap, so he won't be going any quicker. And Damon Mitchell gradually rolls onwards. And, well, as he does so, is it going to work out for him? We'll have to wait and see. But he's definitely pushing as hard as he possibly can at the moment. Heading on down, well, we do have a qualifying ban for the number 3 car, and that's for Kurt Smith, for instance, and what was the sprint races at last out at St. Pete. And do we have any other instance? And we do have a pit lane start for the 999 car coming into this round, but they are not here today, so therefore it does mean we won't be seeing that pit lane start served, but we definitely will be seeing that qualifying ban for what will be Kurt Smith being served here today. A bit unfortunate, that one, but that does happen every so often where driver does pick up a big penalty, but that's why we do have the stewarding system. As Damon Mitchell, it does not improve. And right now, Gareth McAllister, the hero of St. Pete, many would say in the Delta class. Have you mattered most? Well, he definitely mattered, and we do love to see him having a good time out there. Well, can he go a little bit quicker here? 1.5 minutes to go. Well, we're going to find out as he makes his way towards what will be the timing line. As he does so, he decides to deflect to the pit lane. So, as you can see how tight that pit lane is on entry, that's going to be qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, because nobody else will be getting a lap in at this point, and everyone has done their laps who's been out there. Although Dan McFarlane currently parked up on, well, not parked up in the pit lane, just cooling on down the road. And as he does so, making his way down towards turn number 17. I think McFarlane right now quite happy with his qualifying session, given the fact that he started 14th. And the 999, if you're wondering who that is Jess Rakowski. Not here today, but does have the pit lane start for the next round that they do attend. As we do see our driver of Dan McFarlane heading around, he goes to the pit lane. We've got Aaron Law out there at the moment. Well, he's a little bit late to the party, but to be fair, better late than never. He won't get a lap on the board at this point, but what he will have to do, understandably, is start from the back of the field and be using this a little bit of exposure and experience. And I wouldn't be surprised if a few drivers have opted not to qualify given the threat of weather, and therefore pretty thinking about the fact they'd rather prioritise saving the energy for when the wet weather comes, and perhaps they were hoping it would come in qualifying, but it hasn't quite so. So therefore, out of our grand total of 34 drivers in attendance today, we have had 27 of them have set representative laps. Lewis Gilbert's been the last of those who to set a lap. Wojciech Swirydowicz has been the fastest of them to set one on 205.789. And Matthew Meilleur will be joining him on the front row with Logan McKinzie and Fleet Smith on row number 2. And Fleet Smith rinsing and repeating what happened from last time out at St. Petersburg. But can he this time convert it into what would be a win? All that's more we're about to find out, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time to make our way to the grid for our one and only race here at the Miami International Autodrome. Of course, it's round number 3, and that means it's a 45-minute endurance race. And so as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this held our lineup for round number 3 of Season 17 of the AlphaTouring Challenge, powered by Syncmesh and Glass and Steel Photography Design, brought to you on iRacing. And taking pole position here today, it's Wojciech Swirydowicz of Beaver and D's. He's joined on the front row of the grid by the man who missed out in St. Petersburg, but is back once again today, and the winner from Detroit. It's Matthew Meilleur. Can he make himself the endurance race master? Well, the gap between the two of them in qualifying was almost 3 attempts, but I suspect the gap won't be that far away when it comes to the race itself. Logan McKinzie starts in 3rd place, meanwhile, and putting together a very good qualifying points, no doubt about it. In fact, he was able to beat Fleet Smith to that 3rd place, and the Gamma pole sitter for B4Ds right now looking increasingly quick. Chris McDonald starts in 5th place of Crop Promotions, his best qualifying points of the season so far in terms of the delta between him and the Gamma pole sitter, plus also the overall pole sitter. He'll be happy with that 2nd place in Gamma, 5th on the 3rd row. He's going to be joined on that row by Ray Tew for Beaver and D's, and then we do see behind them starting in 7th place is going to be Ian Bertolucci. The Brazilian driver from Sim Racing Grid picked up a good haul of points last time at St. Petersburg and be looking for even more points today, starting 3rd in the Gamma class. But he'll be concerned about the man who starts alongside him on that 4th row. John Lauzon for Beaver and D's, the Canadian driver, definitely a superstar on the streets of St. Pete, and can he go even quicker? Street circuits definitely seem to be his cup of tea. And it's going to be none other than Jacob Simmons starting 9th there. The debutant doing well in qualifying, but he knows he's got some work to do, given the fact he's in the company, a major Monsavai only 4 thousandths behind, starting 10th for T0 Racing Summit. Outside the top 10 in 11th place, it's going to be your next debutant of Alexander Gonzalez Green, and wish him all the best luck indeed to all of our debutants and to all of our drivers, but especially to our debutants, and he's done well to qualify in 6th place in the Gamma class there, 11th. He's just got behind him Matthew Shepka for Sia, and then it is none other than your Delta pole sitter Tyler Long. And well, to be fair, all went a bit wrong on the streets of St. Pete, but he's not showing it was a blip in terms of that qualifying performance. That is where he wants to be. He wants to be the regular pole sitter in the Delta class, and that's now 2 qualifying pole positions back to back for Long. But for how long will it go on, as he has Dan McFarlane for close company for Sim Racing Grid, and then we will see John Daniels starting in 15th for T0 Racing Summit. We then got Carl Trost, not quite in the end, taking the Delta pole position, but just missing out versus was his teammate. But well done to both of them there. And in the end, only what was the best part of 2 attempts behind. Keep your eyes on Trost. I wonder if he's going to take the fight to Long, or whether they'll try and just make it a 1-2 here today. We then do see in 17th place Damon Mitchell for Crop Promotions ahead of Corey Lobner. And the priority then falling away to your third newcomer in the grid of none other than what is Nicholas Schwedska. And the Schwedska racing driver there starting 19th in the company of your third place Delta driver Evan Clavio for Sim Racing Grid. Outside the top 20, 21st, it's Gareth McAllister, 4th in the Delta, and looking to go for another podium for Yamato Motorsport, and he's ahead of third hour originally for SRG, and the gap between the two of them not even what was 400ths. Then we do see Zach Hodako, the championship leader in the Delta class, starting 23rd for T0 Racing Ascent. Not quite the qualifying points he wanted, but to be fair, as the team name suggests, he'll be looking to ascend his way through the order. Jason Lynn, our photographer for this series for Gator Racing, watch out for him as well. He had a miserable time at St. Pete, ended up becoming a spinning top in race number 1, where the car went into the air, and thankfully he wasn't injured by it. But indeed, such was the severity of the incident through turns 11 and 12. They've done a lot of work on that car over the last week, and the 661 is back here to play today. Mitchell Richmeyer starts in 25th for Yamato Motorsport ahead of Krista Ondra, and the Junk in the Trunk Electronica's driver looking to pick up even more points today. It's been a bit of a slow start to the season for the team, and Lewis Gilbert just behind the 27th on the grid for Gator Racing. He was the last to try to get a valid lap on the board, and then not getting the lap, Micah Hendricks first and foremost for Crop Promotions. We saw what was the qualifying ban for Kurt Smith for B4Ds being served, and Aaron Law completing the top 30, and then outside the top 30. 31st, it was none other than Spencer Clark, head of Nathan Hempley for Waifu no Laifu, and then starting at the very back, none other than Michael Bowman. Although I am being informed, ladies and gentlemen, that Spencer Clark, Nathan Hempley, and Michael Bowman are all in the pit lane. Their cars are currently in the garages. They may not be going racing, and if so, it does mean we've only got 30 cars going racing today, not the anticipated 33. We do apologise for saying 34 earlier, and if we have lost a couple of cars before we've gone green flag racing, but we'll have to wait and see what it translates into as the grid is set, and now we are waiting at the lights. And so the revs rise, and for the third round of the season, it's going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's lights out, and away we go here on the streets of Miami as the drives roar the way down towards turn 1. It's a good start from Wojciech Swirydowicz as he looks in towards the opening bend, but onto the brakes. And you can see Matthew Meilleur there tucking in behind, but it's a bit of a scramble further behind. Somebody's gone around. That's Monster Vio's gone for a spin, and we're not quite sure how he's ended up that way. We'll get a replay of that when we can. Oh, and it's going very solid for 85 into the barrier, and that's going to be none other than what is Chris McDonald being turned. He's able to get pointed in the straight direction, and as they roar the way through turn 3, well, it's been a dramatic start, but Alexander Gonzalez Green has jumped all the way up to 2nd place in Gamma and 7th overall already. What a lightning start for that man as he battles side by side there with Ian Bertolucci and making sure the Sim Racing grid driver cannot come back at him as they make the way into the sweeper. But meanwhile, Tyler Long, your Delta pole sitter right now, still leading, but where is Carl Trost? He's dropped a long way down. Gareth McAllister, meanwhile, has made quick work there, dispatching the likes of Zach Hodako and also not Kurt Smith, but Carl Trost. And Kurt Smith is making his way up the order just behind. That's one getting the two mixed up as they come out of turn number 8. McAllister fighting hard with Schwedska as they make the way on towards turn number 11. But here we go, then this will be the first long drag race as they make the way towards the heavy braking zone. And looking up towards your leaders, but they've already bolted away. 2.6 seconds of the gap to Logan McKinzie, and Swirydowicz and Meilleur are absolutely flying. But as they head in towards that braking zone, we may have a theory as to why they're flying very short. It will come onto that soon. Meanwhile, further back, oh, that's a bit of contact there. It's going to be Bertolucci and Gonzalez Green coming together. And that's what that camera angle would suggest. Well, to see whether that's the case, as we do see Bertolucci come back onto the road. It's free wide there at turn number 12, and that is going to be Gareth McAllister trying to squeeze his way from the outside of turn 12 back to the inside of 13. He's getting very elbows out racing, and Zach Hodako right now cannot find a way through. He's poking, he's probing, he's frosting, he's doing everything he can, but in the end he can't seem to penetrate the defence that's being put up by Gareth McAllister, and McAllister right now making himself so wide that he's pretty much 3 cars wide on the road. But as they head down the back straight now, we can see further battling behind Lewis Gilbert fighting hard here with Krista Ondra, and Ondra gradually making progress as meanwhile Gonzalez Green's cars missing his front bumper, and I suspect there's been a bit of a shunt. We'll have to get a replay of that when we can. As the drivers make their way down towards the hairpin, well, plenty of fighting in the mid-pack as well as up towards the very front of the field. As we do look to Andre here, still fighting hard with Evan Clavio, albeit he's not close enough to look for a move. He's going to have to wait his turn, at least for now, in his Audi RS3 Gen 2. But further up the road, Matthew Shepka here, continuing to fight. That's with Chris McDonald. McDonald is going to be on the left of your picture. Shepka's hidden behind. Well, it's John Lauzon's on the right of your picture. Into the brains over turn 1 they go. And it's going to be McDonald's Audi that gets ahead of the Sia machine of Shepka. So therefore, right now, he'll definitely be looking for a move back when he can. But we can see Corey Lobner a bit further back right now, also making the moves as we see the CFR privateer machine building up a bit of speed as it goes on to lap number 2. But one open lap we've had Carl Trost as well towed to the pit lane recently. So there's a lot of stories from the open lap we're going to need to get disclosed as soon as we can. But Zach Hurdarko still is trying to poke his way forward as we ride on board, looking down over the front of the T0 Racer Ascent 76. And right now, this is not where he wants to be. And well, on the back of the UMAT Motorsport car, it says you're not alone, albeit that's for mental health reasons. But right now, he's definitely going to be feeling as though he's not alone. He's got plenty of drives to fight with. As we do see Nicholas Shvedska right in front, the Gamma debutant finding himself, oh my goodness, in close formation. And Zach Hurdarko there having a brush with the barrier, and the Nightmare of St. Pete comes back to hold him once again. The barriers find him, and Hurdarko, I think he'll get away with that one, but he's going to lose some time to McAllister, and that's going to give Jason Lynn some confidence to potentially catch up. Although Lynn being the best part of 2 seconds behind when they did make the way in towards turn number 8, he won't be close enough to look for a move, most certainly, but understandably Hurdarko will be a little bit knocked by that, and he's got to calm down now as a driver. It's not easy. When you do make a mistake like that at a street circuit, it is terrifying. Not the actual contact itself, but it changes the way you look at the circuit mentally, because Sonny, when he gets that corner next time round, he's going to be thinking to himself, or trying to prevent himself from thinking, I'm going to hit that wall again. It starts to become ingrained in your muscle memory that if you make the contact once, you'll do it twice, and there's a mistake through turns 14 and 15, goes a bit deep out 14, too much speed, and already that damage, I think, taking its toll, but also Hurdarko just needs to settle down a little bit and try and get himself back in control and react to the car. But meanwhile, the top two are running away. Logan McKinzie and Fleet Smith here are battling still. McKinzie going defensive there into turn 17 and trying to say to the Gamma leader, look, don't go for it. And I think Smith right now is just keeping him guessing. Further back, Dan McFarlane and Damon Mitchell going too wide. They battle their way through turn 17. They're going to give each other plenty of space as they make the way out the corner. And it's going to be Dan McFarlane in the end. Well, he was able to get ahead just about, as Damon Mitchell right now still gluing himself to the back as they roll the way onto the start-finish straight. But that's 2 laps down, plenty more to go. We are expecting the best part of around 20 to 22 laps here today, given the fact the lap time in the dry is just over 2 minutes. We've got a 45-minute race. There'll be plenty of excitement to come as Micah Hendricks will continue to pick his way through. But on the back now, Gareth McAllister trying to move his way up in the 17th. And a reminder for the uninitiated, if you're new to the AlphaTouring Challenge and this is your first time watching, try to score their points based on their overall finishing position, and they get bonus points in the Gamma and the Delta classes for where they finish in class. So therefore, in an endurance race round, the overall win is worth 200 points, and that will apply to any driver who takes it. Doesn't matter which class you're in, but if you are a Gamma or a Delta driver and you take your class victory, you get 8 bonus points. If you finish in second class, it's 4, and if you finish third, it's 2. And there's also some bonus points for pole position, which we have seen 4 bonus points be awarded to those with pole overall and in the classes today, and we'll also see bonus points for the fastest lap out there in each of the classes. But right now, Mitchell Richmond won't be thinking about the fastest lap. He'll be thinking about the fastest way to get past Evan Clavio, who goes very deep there at turn number 8. Gets it back together, however, but he will pick up an instant point for running wide onto what's the runoff zone, and indeed running into the artificial sea, if you will. And right now, Mitchell Richmond does not want to play with the Dolphins, even if Clavio does. But further back, Kurt Smith here battling side by side versus Lewis Gilbert, trying to pick his way back up through the field. Does that very nicely. That smooth move from the Honda drive. He's got the better grip on the front end, but Lewis Gilbert will have the power down the straight. We'll have to wait and see whether Gilbert can come back at him. And I think the answer to that question is going to be no. I think Gilbert's going to save some fuel behind instead and perhaps save a little bit of race time, and also save them both the opportunity to fight with other drivers. But meanwhile, we see side by side there for turns 14 and 15. Proves you can go too wide through the chicane. And that is Ian Bertolucci squeezing his way past Corey Lobner as we look back from the rear of his car. And right now the CFR machine of Lobner's trying to break away from Tyler Long. Look at that Elantra on the right hand side though. That's without the draft, and it is still staying with the Audis. That shows you how quick that Elantra has become on the straight line. However, it does lose out in the heavy braking zones. It does experience a lot of tyre degradation now. And as they make their way down to that braking zone, well, Tyler Long's going to go all in here. The Delta leader is not going to back out this. He's going to go for it versus Lobner. And to be fair, it's worth more points. He may as well. And Tyler Long here today is coming out all guns blazing. But meanwhile, we look back up the order to Jacob Simmons, and well, he's got his exposure here because he's breaking away from John Lauzon. Meanwhile, behind, Lauzon, McDonald and Tew all fighting hard, and John Lauzon holds on around the outside in the free wide there into break into turn 1, and Chris McDonald and Ray Tew close together just behind, with Shepka still watching on there. I think Shepka right now is going to have to scheme a little bit here. He's going to be more Mr. Burns rather than Smithers, and not let this race wither away right now, but instead think of a scheme to be able to cut his way on through. But they make the way out through turn number 3 and towards 4-5. All these drivers right now, well, remembering the fact we have the dry conditions at least at the moment, but the rain is expected to come at some point, and should it do so, well, then Sunny's strategy is completely going to go out the window. It become more of a game of surviving until it's the right time to go to the wet tyre. But you don't always jump immediately, because understandably, if you jump too soon to a wet tyre, you're going to overheat it and take a lot of life out of it. You will take it past its prime, or it's even had a chance to actually get there. One of the things we need to get to, of course, is how exactly this race started and what exactly happened to Major Montsevai right at the start. So let's go back in time and take a look at some of the big moments from the start of the race. So this was how our race got underway, and well, it was a classic start for Wojciech Swirydowicz, getting a brilliant run off the line. But meanwhile, we're looking back to Major Montsevai. Now, keep your eyes on the left-hand side. You're going to see one car. It pulls out. That is Montsevai coming into the middle of the road. And as he did so, oh, we got pranged there on the side, I think, of John Lauzon's car. So he had the better start compared to Lauzon, but unfortunately got turned around. This is what it looked like on board with Montsevai. And that's Lauzon directly in front in there. He started in 10th place, of course. And as they did go green flag racing, the lights went out. And we've got a really nice launch here in at the Elantra. Looked to the middle of the road. And Indian found himself in a bit of a squeeze. And I think he was squeezed slightly over to the right to Lauzon. And well, that's at least what the camera angle would suggest there. But of course, there's many different stories and many different angles. And for Montsevai, he didn't even get 100 metres before it all went wrong. Meanwhile, on lap number 1, we also saw this for Mitchell Richmar coming down to the opening corner. The U-Mountain Motorsport drive started further down. And well, as Montsevai gone around, yellow flags waving for him. And oh, goodness me, that was the car there. I believe that was Lewis Gilbert being turned sideways, the Gator Racing car being turned, and Mitchell Richmar being collected. And well, nightmare moment for him. And Fred Auer Ridgely was caught up in all that. And as Auer Ridgely for S-Yacht G. Watch to your left there, and you'll see it all go a bit wrong. So onto the brakes. Oh, he hit the rear of the T0 car and got pushed forward himself by another drive behind. So that's what led to a bit of the chaos and carnage between all of them, and explains what exactly happened. Now, we did have this for Alexander Gonzalez Green on the open lap as well. And this was heading down towards turn number 11. And as he did so, we was in battle here. Now, Bertolucci came screaming to the braking zone. Side-to-side contact there, and the Mexican drive being turned around. Bertolucci coming a bit too hot, and he did try to thread the needle there, expecting they'd leave the door open, but unfortunately the door was closed, and that led to that big moment for him. We also had this for Kurt Smith and Aaron Lahr. Now, they were fighting 2 wide, coming through turn 12 into 13, so we had a 3 wide just in front of them. And as they made their way through 13 and 14, what went wrong? And the answer is Smith died at the inside of Lahr, and in the end they got caught at each other. Oh, goodness me! Now, that's uncharacteristic there. The 2 cars getting caught at each other on the simulator and being turned around. Aaron Lahr very quickly reversing out the way. They all did a brilliant job of trying to clear the road, as otherwise that would have been fully blocked. Nobody would have wanted that whatsoever. So, a bit of a nightmare moment for both drivers. And then we did have this for Carl Trost. This was at the very end of lap number 1. This was coming down in towards turn number 17. Went into the braking zone. He'd already picked up some damage to the car earlier on. Oh, and as he made his way out the corner, that was a hit to the wall for Lewis Gilbert and got caught on Gilbert's car that was already stricken. He had no time to react there. He wouldn't have seen any yellow flags. They wouldn't have been deployed in time, and it all went wrong. Then on lap number 2, we had this for Micah Hendricks, heading down towards the same hairpin. At the time, he was battling there with newcomer of Nicholas Shvedska. And onto the brakes he went, got very deep in the braking zone, went straight on, and in the end brushed the barrier, but managed to get away with that, but lost 2 places for the price of 1 mistake. And we had this for Jason Lynn on lap number 3 quite recently. And this was Lynn at the same corner for Gator Race in turn 17. Definitely proving to be an instant hotspot here today. And as he came onto the brakes, went very late on the brakes, kept going straight, and in the end found his way to stop and gradually turned the car around. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's back to your live racing we go. And definitely an entertaining few open laps, it must be said, but plenty more entertainment to come over the range of the race. And we are 10 minutes in now to the distance, and there's still more fighting. But right at the front of the field, Swirydowicz and Meilleur continue to bolt away. And the theory we have regarding these two is they may have underfueled their cars. And the reason for that is if we are expecting rain, they've looked to the forecast. Indeed, we have forecasted weather, and our drivers do have the option to look at that forecast. And when they do get a 20-minute advance view, it can change, however. Weather is not fixed, and indeed, the iRacing weather modelling system are the most accurate in the world on the simulator currently? Well, I think they've gone with the adage, which is they're going to be pitting early if the rain should arrive in time, so therefore don't put the fuel in the car, because when you are changing all 4 tyres on the car to go to the wet weather tyre, you will need to put the fuel in, and therefore you can make up the deficit there. So I think that's the game plan strategically. We'll have to wait and see whether that's the way it works out for them or not. But meanwhile, as we do see Jacob Simmons here finding pressure from Lauzon, he has been able to get ahead, but Lauzon right now is trying to get back ahead of him as Chris McDonald's also following suit. And into that braking zone we go, and as they do, well, what's it going to be here? It's going to be Simmons defending hard, Lauzon looking all the way around the outside in the battle of the 2 Hondas, and right now the Gamma second place driver here trying to move into full place, and Simmons definitely getting a taste of what it's like to be the lead class driver, but in an overall battle, and knowing that his Gamma drives, one day they will become Alpha drives, should they do well enough, and right now John Lauzon really poking and probing as much as possible. And Chris McDonald also all over the back of this. But you're seeing the 2 Hondas better through the corners, and the Croc Promotions Audi meanwhile really having to build itself up out these corners and wind onto the straight. But not the best of exits there coming out to turn number 16. Just getting caught out a little bit in the concertina, losing the momentum he needs, and that momentum proving very critical. So that's why he falls back. But remember, McDonald can use this as an opportunity to do quite a bit of fuel savings. He can lift and coast in towards the braking zone, but also making his way down the straight. He can probably run at about 80 to 90% throttle rather than the full throttle, as those Hondas don't have the straight line speed, plus he's getting the double draft off of them, so it all adds up. The only downside, of course, is if he finds he is losing pace and they fight too hard in front, they'll bring Logan McKinzie and Ray Tew into this battle, and in Sunny for Chris McDonald, it won't feel very comfortable in 6th place. It'll feel like a nightmare, and that's when he'll have to get his elbows out and try to fight his way forward. Making the way down. Well, there's Lauzon going a little bit defensive-offensive there, trying to say to McDonald, look, don't go for it, because I'm going to cover you off, but also I'm trying to get into the head of Simmons in front, so it really is a dual-purpose move from Lauzon, but it doesn't work out that time. Meanwhile, Tyler Long, Delta leader, Corey Lobner still behind him, John Daniel still in front, and Damon Mitchell just a little bit further forward, but right now the quartet running together, and Schwedzka still trying to catch up there in the Veloster. Good to see him out there having a good time, currently 10th in the Gamma class, wants to pick up some more points, no doubt about it, but he's got some work to do out there. Now, with this race, we have lost already non-starts of Bowman, Clark and Hempley, and we've also lost first Fluid Hour originally on what was the opening laps, and we have also seen go 3 laps down, but still racing Gonzalez Green, so it's a bit of a difficult start to the season for him, but to be fair, get the difficult ones out of the way immediately, and it's all upwards from there, they say. As Evan Clavio, meanwhile, he's definitely trying to find his way back upwards, starting in 3rd in the Delta class, got elbowed down the order in the opening couple of laps, and right now it does look as though the SRG, or the Sim Racing Grid driver, is meeting his match in the Mitchell Richmeyer, as they roll the way between the apexes and up towards turns 17 and 18. Zach Hidalgo, meanwhile, well, he's got Jason Lynn a little bit further behind him, and in fact, there is Lynn looking for a move. So Lynn having a bit of a discontinuity or a connection interruption, but right now, will we see a move from Lynn around the outside here in towards the heavy braking zone? And I think the answer is going to be yes. Lynn's going to go for it here in the Audi. Hidalgo is going to have to go defensive. Championship leader in the Delta class right now under pressure, and this 3rd place will give him a good haul of points, but the 19th will actually mean that Tyler Long will get a lot closer. He could, in theory, could Tyler potentially jump him in the standings after today? As meanwhile, we've had a further incident for Major Monsivai, who's not having a happy time at all here at Miami, and that is at turn 17. As we do briefly cut to his car there, and shortly he's got the leaders catching up to him. So that is Swirydowicz and Meilleur now. Not too far behind, and well, understandably, I think Monsivai is going to be wondering here how long it's going to be before a lap's trying to be put on him. But meanwhile, back at the same hairpin, that's going to be Chris McDonald looking around the outside versus John Lauzon. And McDonald right now, I think he's the quicker driver here versus the 2 in front of him, Lauzon and Simmons. The problem is, John Lauzon right now is very good at doing the balancing act of defending and attacking simultaneously. And there's Lauzon going defensive. You can see McDonald right now, he's not liking this at all, albeit they're racing fairly. He's going to look around the outside and coming through 1 into 2. Where it tapers off very quickly to the inside of 2, therefore going too wide through there. You've got to have essentially your wheels fully alongside versus the driver you're overtaking on that inside line, or you're going to have to back out straight away because you can't really go too wide through 2 given the way the circuit narrows, and then you've got that run through turn number 3 unless you both back off tremendously. So that's going to give McKinzie now the momentum. He'll sweep round the outside just like that with a click of the finger, and the Pennzoil Super Touring at number 4 car right now moving up into 6th place, but he's still got a lot of work to do, and Tiu and Shepka still behind here as they head in towards turn number 8, and you can see McFarlane and Bertolucci not too far behind either. Well, all this fighting could bring them right into the mix should it work out that way. But a third of the race is complete. We've still got bright skies at the moment, although the cloud is building over here as I look out my concept booth window. No rain as of yet, but there's a high probability some is going to fall. But it does seem as though right now at least this weather is staying away. And if so, well, could that play games with our leaders who we believe have taken a bit less fuel in the car to go quicker and get to that pit stop the quickest? Well, we'll see. Logan McKinzie right now, battling side by side here with Chris McDonald. McDonald wants that place back overall. He does not like the fact he's not been given a chance to attack John Lauzon. McKinsie's not doing this to help Lauzon out. He's doing it selfishly because he wants a few more points. But understanding, McDonald's saying to him right now, give it back. And McKinsie's going as a 6-time champion in this series with the most decorated driver in terms of championship crowns. He's simply saying, no, if you want it, you're going to have to fight for it. And once they make the way down the back stretch, you can see how it's bringing all this field together. Corey Lobner, meanwhile, still battling with Tyler Long for 14th place. Albeit here we go with Long looking for a move on Daniels. Now it's 2 T0 racing cars, one at the Summit and one the Ascent. And understand it is going to be the Ascent of Long here versus the Summit of Daniels. Would he go round the outside of him? Is Daniels backing off slightly here versus the Elantra, or is he just running out of speed? And I think the answer is going to be, I think he's running out of speed, because suddenly Corey Lobner sneaks on through. Although he's got on the outside of the privateer for CFR, that's not going to make life easy for him. But in the end, he will get that move done. I think John Daniels prioritising just taking it easy right now, protect the tyres a little bit and just move back down the order. You can always get that place back later on. And Shvedska, meanwhile, is on the back of this group, and he's going to try and look for a move on Daniels here into turn 1. Does he get it on the Veloster's brakes? Not quite. As meanwhile, Hendricks is flying out there. That was a 207.93 that last lap. He was the best part of a second quicker than everybody else in front of him in that group at least, so therefore he's hoping to pick up some more places very soon, having started from the very back of the grid in the number 73. Logan McKinzie and fighting with John Lauzon, and it's going to be too wide. They're going through the S's, and Lauzon realises a bit too late. He can't go too wide through there and not expect some understeer. And in the end, Lauzon loses that place to McKinzie. So McKinzie with a decisive move, and now Lauzon's got a big problem behind him because he's got Chris McDonald back again. And I think McDonald right now is going to be saying underneath his visor, John, remember me? And I think John, if he was over to him, would probably be saying, no, I don't want to remember, as they make the way down towards turn number 11. And I'm saying the Beaver and D's driver here just trying to pull away, and given the team are leading the team's championship right now, they'd like another big score to follow up how they've been doing so far. As he heads into the braking zone here. Here comes McDonald looking up the inside, and McDonald's going to go all in for it here. It's going to be a lovely move from McDonald if he pulls this off, but Lauzon tries to close it up to get the inside of turn number 12 comfortably. Two other come all the way round, and right now McDonald is refusing to budge. He's going to try and hold the inside in towards turn 13. That's not going to happen there. The Audi just does not have the front end grip compared to the Honda, and he has to back off. Otherwise, he would have been trying to put his nose into a space that would be closing, and at that point, he wouldn't have a significant overlap. And if they were to make contact, the blame would most likely lie with the attacker rather than the defender, and McDonald would have the stewarding book thrown at him instead. But meanwhile, as they head on down the back stretch, we'll look back to Jason Lim. As Zach Hodako is a bit liberal with track limits there at the curb at turn number 15. He can get away with that, but he does have to be careful because, of course, there's a very high curb and it's a big drop, and then you go back onto another curb if you do that very tight line. And what that means is the suspension gets shuffled on around. You've got to set the car up specifically to be able to feel comfortable over these curves. And we know how these TCR cars are very sensitive to high curves, particularly the Honda and also more so the Audi. Although the Audi has got better with the Gen 2 car, it must be said. Meanwhile, the Hyundais are much more comfortable over the curves by comparison with their peers. Coming in towards the hairpin right now. Lynn definitely pushing hard. Now able to find a move at the moment as we look back to Evan Clavio. And right now he's trying to chase down Mitchell Richmeyer. As we do see what is Alexander Gonzalez Green having a further lap put in by the drivers around him in the Delta class. Or is he trying to unlap himself? And I think here the Gamma driver is trying to unlap himself. Still having some fun on his debut. Although it's blue flag unlapping fun instead. It's not lead lap battling fun. But as he makes his way on past there, another machine. And now it's going to be Gareth McAllister. We come back to still fighting with Hodako, and in fact, he's just made the move there for second place in Delta. We're going to need to get a replay of that. That's a good move there for McAllister. Can he hold Hodako behind? We'll have to wait and see, as the fights are definitely intensifying. And even more clouds coming to the circuit right now. The clear skies we saw right at the start today are going away. We have got a little bit of sunshine, but not too much. And meanwhile, this is still McAllister trying to hold on. Hodako is poking him on the backside right now, trying to find a move in. He's going to look up the inside in towards turn number 8. McAllister's going to have to leave the door open, but understandably, Hodako there on a tight line. He can't get the throttle down early, and Hodako falls back as we ride on board here with the third place man in Delta. He is none other than 19th overall, and we'll try and Long's run away with this, no doubt about it, as the rain starts to fall. There is the rain as Gareth McAllister there appears and disappears, but thankfully he does not disappear off to the ether for too long, and the rain does arrive, and now this is going to be what everyone's been waiting for, as we see Hodako looking up the inside, trying to go for the brakes here. And the car snaking around. Those slick tyres, of course, they've got a lot of heat in them at the moment, so they will be able to dissipate the water that falls onto the surface, and therefore now it's all about trying to keep the pace for as long as you can on these slick tyres, and it's only when you feel as though you cannot do it anymore, well, that's when you make the transition to the wet weather tyre. But of course, the sooner you make the transition, the safer you will feel, but you may lose some pace initially, and you may also overheat the wet tyre before it's able to go for its natural heating cycle. As we do see Logan McKinzie kept making his way past Jacob Simmons in towards turn 17. Simmons decides not to fight that too egregiously, and I think the thought process is now, with the rain falling, can he really afford to fight too hard? Well, nobody peels into the pit lane yet, although one will, and that is going to be into the pit lane for none other than Ray Tew. So he decides for Beaver and D's it's time to come in early, and well, it might be a smart call here from the Alpha driver. He's got nothing to lose being at the back of that group. The worst case scenario is he falls further behind it. The best case scenario, he jumps ahead of it all, and well, it could definitely work out for him as he makes his way on down. As he does so, well, we're going to take a quick look back at some of the moves that were made just before the rain started to arrive, including what was this absolutely impressive move from none other than Gareth McAllister versus Zach Hidako, and it was on lap number 10. So this was heading down towards turn number 1. It was, in fact, Hidako had actually fallen behind him before the corner. So it happened at the hairpin, we believe, at turn 17. And it was McAllister having to go defensive at turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in the end, well, was McAllister able to make sure he was able to hold on just enough. Where it started then, that battle, was none other than here. If we go back even further, courtesy of the software provided by Matthew Meilleur, of course, to enable these replays to occur. And we did see was McAllister had cleared Hidako in the run down towards the hairpin. So I suspect the move must have happened even earlier than that. Unfortunately, we haven't quite caught that move on camera, but definitely it has happened. But meanwhile, with all that going on, we had this for Logan McKinzie, making a bit of a brilliant move down towards the hairpin, and after he cleared John Lauzon, fighting through the S's, McKinzie and able just to simply outrun. This as the rain started to fall, and understanding at this point into that braking zone, it was going to be Simmons not making a move to defend. I think both drivers worried there about what was the tyres getting wetter and wetter. But with that, it's back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do come on back, the rain continues to fall, but quite lightly at the moment, so therefore it's not going to be too aggressive a transition. We have had several drivers come into the pits for wet tyres already, Ray Tew being one of them, Damon Mitchell as well. Also John Daniels, Jason Lynn and Zach Hidako, they're all making the way in. You can see the spray contrails now starting to appear, and that's a sign that this surface is getting a bit wetter, and therefore we might be seeing some other drivers come in. As Swirydowicz is in, so is Meilleur. They both come in. Fleet Smith is going to make his way in as well. Everyone now is probably thinking, we want to start to see a little bit of spray, it's time to get off these tyres. Now, if it was a shorter lap, then I think our drivers would be willing to gamble going another lap here for those audacious enough. But given we do have a 3.4 mile long circuit to nearest 0.1 of a mile, well, as we do see Logan McKinzie hit the barrier there on pit entry. Oh, goodness me, and in the pit lane there's drama, as that's going to be, I think now Simmons hitting the back of McKinzie after he hit the barrier, and as a result, well, drivers coming to the pits. Meanwhile, Gareth McAllister's gone on and long at turn number 17, so he's made an error, but he's still holding in there for now. We're going the extra lap, may not have worked out for some drivers. He's got to be careful on that pit lane entry not to do what McKinsie's just done. Remember, they had to stay within the white lines, so it's an unsafe pit entry. They can't cut the pit entry lines, but meanwhile, Mitchell Richmeyer also coming in, and we do also see they're coming in 3 laps down. Gonzalez Green, where it's Christopher Ondra. Here he comes in. Where is Kurt Smith? Here is Smith right now. He's got to make his way in as well, having made his way into pits earlier on in the race, but now making his way back on out. But the first driver who did pit was Ray Tew, and well, right now, how far is he going to go? Well, Wojciech Swirydowicz and Matthew Meilleur already making their way out of the pit lane here, so they've definitely been able to get the right timing on the pit stop. They put the fuel in the car, now they've got the wet weather tyres on the car, and just behind is Fleet Smith there, as they're all starting to pile the way out the pit lane. But of course, after what happened to McKinzie, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see an even bigger split in the field now. John Lauzon finally comes out, and as he does so, where is Simmons? That's who we're wondering, and I wonder, saying with the damage that Simmons must have picked up with that contact, Jacob Simmons is there, but the car fell back a little bit, so he was the one we believe who hit the back of McKinsie's car. Indeed, a Honda did hit the back of McKinsie's own Honda, and Simmons has fallen backwards, so that is what we think confirms that Simmons was the one who got caught up by surprise, and will they carry on? But Logan McKinzie right now, he has effectively had to tow to his pit box. That's actually set him back a lap. That's drama for him, and meanwhile for Matthew Meilleur, He's made an error at turn 7 into 8, and he's suddenly lost Swirydowicz. So Swirydowicz has now got a 4-second lead over the man who was definitely all over his backside like a bad rash for the entire opening dry stint. But now we're into this wet stint here for the very end of the race, most likely. But, oh, Shepka goes sliding at turn 7 into 8. And on those wet weather tyres, they give you the grip, they help you displace the water, but they don't give you infinite grip. And Shepka find out the hard way, most likely touching a white line, and that's why the car went very sideways there. But thankfully able to get it back under control just in the nick of time. Want to get a replay of that when we can. But all these drivers right now definitely trying to keep it alive in these wet conditions. And in fact, we are going to get a quick replay of what exactly happened to none other than Matthew Meilleur. And also, I wonder if we might be able to get a replay of what happened to Logan McKinzie. In fact, I don't think we are going to be able to get that replay of McKinzie. We will see, ladies and gentlemen, where we can do so as we do take a quick trip back in time. So this was our driver starting to make their way into the pit lane. And can we see what happened to McKinzie? This was the on-board. Oh, he pranged what was the gantry there, or the walkway, we should say, and then hit on the back. That was John Lauzon going past, and that's the confirmation of Simmons hitting the back of him. So we only catch a small sliver of it, but McKinzie came in a bit too deep and hit the walkway where you would see crews stand there to support their teams and particularly give them information with the boards. But meanwhile, we do a look to what happened elsewhere, and there was a bit of a moment for none other than Matthew Meilleur. This was Meilleur getting it wrong after what was coming out the pit lane, battling hard with Swirydowicz, and in the end looking to the inside in towards turn 7 and 8, but the rear of the car letting go after he understeered wide and just avoid the barrier there, literally by a hair's breadth. Well done to the Canadian driver catching over SRG, but that's definitely given Swirydowicz quite a confident gap. And we also did have a bit of difficulty for Shepka, and this was Shepka coming in towards the same corner, and the senior driver full of enthusiasm, and well, in the end the rear of the car completely slid loose there, and well, his enthusiasm seen him get carried away, but not quite to the barrier. Similar error in fact to Meilleur, as we do make our way back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do, well, there's still plenty of time in this race. There's still plenty of room for mistakes. Make no mistake about that. As Simmons battling with you. And right now, Jacob Simmons trying to hold on here for what be third place in the Alpha class. It won't mean any extra points for him, but it will feel quite special to be the third highest Alpha driver if he is able to bring this home down. But we can see Ray too close there as he's going to slide loose. And Tu's going to look up the inside. And the outside line at turn 7 through 8 right now is proving too hazardous to carry speed. And we'll lean too hard on those wet tyres. Well, as quick as the rain has fallen, it has stopped. Well, goodness me, we are expecting that rain to come back as well. I think right now we've got patches in the cloud, but there's plenty of water out there. This is not going to be sunny. A transition to the slick tyre, that easily, I suspect, will be on the wet tyre to the end of the race. But if no rain comes back, I wonder if we're going to see a much drier circuit right at the end and whether those wet tyres will start to disintegrate. And it'll be about who can protect them the best, who can find the water. But right now, don't think about that. Think about Dan McFarlane, who right now fighting back against Chris McDonald, coming for turns 11 and 12. And just behind, you can see that Hugh and Simmons fight each other, and it's going to be Simmons coming back here, looking for the move on the inside, but backs out into turn 14, knowing that in the dry you don't normally go too wide here. In the wet, you definitely don't want to go too wide. What a brilliant battle between these two, as Gareth McAllister, that's around at turn number 8. He's gone for a spin there, and the man who was looking for another podium in the Delta class, it's all gone wrong and around, and that's not the way he wants it to go in the number 25, as he has to wait for the field to pass him before he gets going once again. But meanwhile, to the fight and the excitement, well, right now in C2 and Simmons still fight each other as Lauzon and McFarlane, they're chasing after Fleet Smith as best they can, but there's a bit of a gap there, and in fact, it is more the Lauzon, McFarlane and McDonald battle instead. But into the braking zone, well, further back, that's going to be 2, almost a 3 wide there, as Corey Lobner right now goes a bit too deep on the brakes, and well, Matt Shepka squeezed on past. In fact, he takes 1, he takes 2, he takes them all, and Shepka jumps up to 5th place in Gamma. Heather Mitchell and John Daniels falls down as well, and right now Shepka, after that big slide earlier on, he's not making any more mistakes here, it would seem. And well, behind him, that is going to be Mitchell and Daniels fight each other hard as we look back from the rear of the 490 Audi. And right now, Shepka trying to get them to fight each other. But Daniels comes in a bit hot, and as a result, goes deeper into the corner. That Honda looking much better on the brakes by comparison, but then had to let the brakes go in order to make sure he didn't hit the rear of his rival. And that's going to enable what will be the battle to continue there between Damon Mitchell and Daniels. Mitchell there in the Audi on the inside. And going through turn number 3, Daniels on the right in the Honda, and Daniels right now trying to come back again here under braking. He's really not letting this go, is John. And more lovely battling from in the number 2, no doubt about it. But Damon Mitchell is going to squeeze back ahead, but you go wide there, coming through into 7. And right now it takes a bit of curve. They can touch that one. The water doesn't really stay on it, flows off. But both cars a little bit sideways there from 7 into 8. And in the end, it will be a move made. But Micah Hendricks, meanwhile, flying his way up the order. He's just passed Lobner, and he just passed only months ago Nicholas Shvedska, coming through turn turn number 7. So right now, Hendricks absolutely thriving in these conditions. And well, could we see him potentially make his way into the top 10 here? Remember, he started all the way at the back of the grid. Hendricks has flown his way forward with what's no qualifying lap set. And right now, doing it all the hard way. But to be fair, the 73 driver putting on an absolutely stellar performance as he roars his way onwards. Again, ready to go into that braking zone now. And will Lobner try and come back at him? The answer is going to be no, as meanwhile Shepka's gone long. He's gone wrong at turn number 11, so he's going to lose out. In fact, Lobner did come in blazing hot. And as a result, Hendricks there had to swap the road around in order to make sure he didn't get caught onto the side of Lobner's car. And here comes Shvedska looking for a move. Does he go all the way into turn 13? Yes, he does. He's going to seize the initiative here. When they say your opponent makes a mistake, don't interrupt them. And right now, Shvedska making sure he doesn't interrupt Lobner making an error. And instead, he just simply makes his way forward instead. More fighting to come. We're into the final third of this race, and right now this is going to be a drag race down. Looks pretty wide, but not quite. That's Lauzon in the middle of your picture, with Dan McFarlane on the right, and McDonald's a little bit further behind. So it's Lauzon and McFarlane fighting for second in Gamma, and what is fourth overall. And we're coming through. That's going to be McFarlane getting the move done initially, and Lauzon's going to try and come back here. But the traction that Honda has coming out these corners in the wet is something to be desired by all the other cars. It doesn't have the straight line speed compared to that Elantra, but to be fair, when it is wet weather conditions, you don't want straight line speed. You want traction out of corners first and foremost. But right now, it does seem as though McFarlane is able to hold on here, going nice and defensive through one. Lauzon's going to try and go around the outside in the 77, squeeze to the inside the next corner. And still McFarlane holding on here, 9 the limit. And McFarlane just making sure he holds that second for now. Lauzon and McDonald queue up behind. But we ride on board with Chris McDonald as he continues to pursue. And right now, the third man in the gang in the group. And I think for him, this is all going to be about just a bit of patience here as he tucks his way through these corners. And well, I wouldn't be surprised at the moment, at least, if he's probably thinking to himself at this point in time, well, given the way the battling's going, he's just got to wait a little bit as they roll the way through. Now, we have noticed our overlay has had a bit of a pause, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to try and fix that in the background. We do apologise. This happens every so often, and therefore the overlay may disappear, but I'm sure it will reappear in due time. But it does seem like it's hit a bit of technical difficulty. But don't worry about that. We're going to keep you apprised of all the racing as it unfolds. And indeed, we've still got plenty more to come between all drivers as they roar the way onwards. And as they do, well, right now, Chris McDonald still fighting with Lauzon and McFarlane for that second place in the Gamma class. And a bit further back, John Daniels still battling with Damon Mitchell. And, well, will he be able to get back to fifth place in Gamma or not? We will see as they go too wide into the braking zone. And right now, it's going to be Damon Mitchell on the inside there. And he's just able to hold that position at least for now. But they weave their way between the corners. And it does seem as though, at least at this time, Damon Mitchell getting the upper hand. Battles in Delta, not too many at the moment. Tai Long is leading, but Jason Lin is closing him down quite rapidly. We are keeping an eye on that. And here, briefly in your pit camera shot at the moment, is Kurt Smith versus Evan Clavio, as these two continue to scrap over 6th place in the Delta class, or what translates into 20th place on the overall road. And well, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue to keep you apprised of where everybody is until we do get our overlay back. It does seem as though our overlay has decided to stop working for a period of time, but as we said earlier on, this does happen every so often, and therefore we are going to have to just proceed to do things at the moment, at least, based on dead recognition and understand who's where. But speaking of Tai Long, there he is. He's in the centre of your picture at the moment, making his way down towards turn number 17, and as he does so, Long right now, definitely trying to get things as right as he possibly can, powering his way down towards the braking zone of turn 17, but you can see Jason Lin is closing on him, and looking very quick as he does so, does Jason, and I think right now for him, this is going to be a game plan where it's all about push as hard as humanly possible and see how close he can get with the time remaining. 2 seconds is the gap, and he is storming his way closer and closer as they roar the way almost towards turn number 1. And coming down towards that braking zone, well, right now, definitely for Jason Lin, it could be a first win on the board, and if so, well, given the fact his best result in his career for Jason Lin, I don't think it's been a win. In fact, we are just going to double check that, whether Jason Lin has taken a win in the Delta class, or indeed in his career, and his best ever finish has been a 3rd place in Delta, and that was all the way back in season 15 in round number 10 at Monza. So therefore, landing the 2nd place would be a season best and a career best, but if he could potentially bring home that win, it would be even more. It would be his first ever Delta class win, and also it wouldn't be too far away from his best ever overall finish of a 12th place, albeit still work to be done for him as he rolls his way through the corners. As he does so, more rain comes on back. So the rain returns once again. And, well, I think the rain has short-circuited what is our broadcast overlay, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. And that does mean, at least at the moment, I'm not quite seeing what's going on, but we can tell you we've still got our timer there, so we can keep up to speed with what's happening, as that Hidako is chasing after Jason Lin still the same. So we get the feeling these three may all come together just yet. But as they head on down, we look back to the front of the field, and Wojciech Swirydowicz, after breaking away from none other than what was Matthew Meilleur, with Meilleur making that early mistake, he's now got Meilleur back with him. So Meilleur on a mission, as the car parked up there, that's the number 21, and that is going to be the number 21 there of Carl Trost, who's had it go wrong, as we do get our overlay back, and again, we do apologise about that. It has now returned from what's been the E for there. It does happen every so often. Very pleased to see it returning as it does briefly disappear again, and well, that's a bit unfortunate. So I'm just trying to get our overlay to be a little bit it's compliant, but I'm sure it will comply, ladies and gentlemen, as that rain does return. Well, all right, now definitely some technical issues here in Miami, and there's the overlay back once more. So good news is we've got it back, and we keep up to speed with where everybody is now, and we do apologise for that slight technical hitch. But as Christoph Onderer, Kurt Smith and Evan Clavio are together, well, that's going to be Kurt Smith getting a bit too close to the back of Onderer's car, and in the end, that's be Clavio now rolling in behind as the 187 driver looking to go on the attack. And Will Smith there just a little bit too eager coming through turns 13 to 14, and not quite working out the dream. But here they go, down towards turn number 17. And as they do so, well, Clavio right now just staying in the draft there, eager to make a move, but perhaps a bit too eager there, one would say. But we have had some big moments for our drives over the last couple of laps, including what's been a big error for Matthew Shepka. So let's take a look back in time and see what exactly went wrong for some of our drivers. So this was Shepka making his way down towards turn number 11, and as he did so here, well, with Damon Mitchell and John Daniels behind, went into the braking zone, too tight, and in the end the car just went straight on there, had to park up and then get going once again. That's how he lost several places with an innocent mistake. Meanwhile, Gareth McAllister on the same lap had this happen to him. This was McAllister, who I believe was very sideways, heading in towards turn 4, 5 and 6, and as he took all the speed into turn 4, the rear let go there, and we understand the car rolling backwards, and then try and get it out of the way as quickly as he could, because he was on the racing line there and did so with aplomb. We then did have this for Ian Bertolucci, and the Brazilian driver just not having a happy day in the office, no doubt about it. At the time, running in 23rd overall, 10th in Gamma, went onto the brakes, and in the end, too late on the brakes now to duck the car to avoid hitting the rear of Lewis Gilbert, throwing the car to the outside there. Good awareness from him. And then we just had this from Carl Trost, who was parked up on the outside of turn 17. What exactly happened to him at the hairpin? And the answer to that question is, he came in hot, came in perhaps a little bit too hot as the circuit was getting a bit drier, and the car just went straight on and had to snake it to the right in the end, because he knew if he carried on at that speed, he would have been making haste to a barrier. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's back to your live racing. As we do come on back, still more excitement to come here as all the drivers roll onwards. And as they do, 7 minutes still left on the clock. And right now, Evan Clavio still chasing after Smith and Onderer. But Ray Tew right in front of the moment. In fact, Tew's gone round. And where is that? I believe that's at turn 17. So turn 17 strikes again as the rain comes down a bit heavier this time. And Tew's going to fall all the way down the order. He's going to lose several big places. And suddenly for Ray Tew, what was looking at an opportunity to finish well inside the top 10 overall. And we're potentially a top 5 overall. And now has gone backwards. But meanwhile, we go forwards to the very front, because Swirydowicz, he's not been able to break away from Meilleur. Meillor's come back at him after his early mistake, and they're going to fight hard here to the very end. And Meilleur wants another endurance race win. He wants to try and land another 200 points. And he's getting a good run here coming out of turn number 8. And I don't think Swirydowicz at this point in the race has got the pace to match him side by side as they make their way down towards turn number 11. And is it going to be Meilleur ahead? He's on the right of your picture. He is going to be on the inside line into that braking zone. And meanwhile, Swirydowicz still there or thereabouts. But as they come through the curvature of 10, it's going to be Meilleur ahead. Will Swirydowicz cut back to the inside? Will he go for a move? And the answer is going to be he's going to attempt to, at least, going onto the brakes. Too wide in. And Swirydowicz is not going to let it go. And Meilleur in the end has to give way. Swirydowicz gets back ahead for Beaver and D's, but coming through turn number 12, well, it's going to be a battle every step of the way now as we look from the rear of the leading Honda, and we're almost having the camera taken off the rear of the car there by the number 12, but number 80, who you ride on board with, still holds on, as right now Meilleur pushing harder and harder with every apex and on his way through the left-hander. And on towards what will be the back stretch. Right now, the Polish driver here is definitely met his match. And I think Meillor's the quicker driver in the wet, no doubt about it. But Swirydowicz is not afraid to go all in for those defensive moves, as we saw only moments ago. And with 5.5 minutes left to go, well, based on mental mathematics here, we are going to see a grand total of 21 laps here today. So it'll be 3 more to go the next time they come across that line. So right now, Swirydowicz, knowing he's got more work to do, and he's going to have to really dig in deep here if he wants to make this work out and become his first win of the season in an endurance race. But as he heads onwards, Jacob Simmons, well, it's going to be currently 6th place for him, but John Malzahn and Damon Mitchell are right behind. as they come down the back stretch. And here they go, and it is going to be John Lauzon looking around at the inside, but meanwhile Mitchell's going to look the other way. But in the end they all fan out here and spread, as it's going to be Simmons who's going to just hold his position, holding on to that 6th, with Chris McDonald starting to pull away a little bit. And credit where it's due to Chris McDonald. Remember, this was your driver who was your Delta champion last season, season 16, and stepping up from Delta to Gamma's no easy feat, going from one class to the other. But here today he is really flying high, and he's going to be on course for what will be a huge Gamma podium at that. And well, I think he'll be pleased as punch with that, given the fact he's had a decent start to the season, but can always be better. And meanwhile, Damon Mitchell right now has got the bit between his teeth as he looks up the inside of John Lauzon. Is he going to make that move happen? The answer will be yes there, as they go too wide on through. And in the end, Lauzon just does not have the grip to be able to fight him all the way round. Brilliant battle between these two drivers right now, and well, John Lauzon does get the better run coming out of turn number 3 in the end, so it's going to be back and forth between them, and Damon Mitchell going as defensive as humanly possible as they roll off. And in the end, it is going to be Mitchell gets ahead for the time being. As Shepka being passed by Hendricks, who goes around the outside him there for 9th place overall. So Hendricks now into the top 10. How high can he go? But from them, we go to the highs at the front of the field. Here they come into the braking zone, making the way through the left-hander of turn number 11. It's Swirydowicz and Meilleur. And Meilleur again looking around the outside here as the rain stops for a brief moment. But this circuit right now definitely very wet. And as they slip and slide the way around and up the hill, we can see at some points there's a lot of water. Other points, the water's drained away, and well, it's going to be difficult as that's going to be a poke to the inside there from Meilleur. He's going to go for it into turn 16, and well, that's one of those moves there where it's not necessarily on, but if you can do it as a driver, you're risking it all. And Meilleur trying to get Swirydowicz there to go wide at turn 16 without making contact, and Swirydowicz met him halfway there, and Meilleur immediately backed out. That's the move where if it works out, you are seen to be a magician. When it doesn't work out, however, you're going to be seen as a bit of a fool, and Meilleur, they've been a bit of a magician to poke his nose in and then pull it out at the right time. But as he goes onto the brakes in towards turn number 17, looking all the way around the outside. That's a lot of pace on the outside compared to Swirydowicz. Swirydowicz here being really measured in terms of his braking zones right now, and just simply in one of those positions whereby I think he does not want to push the tyres too hard. But here's Meilleur taking a lot of curve there at turn number 19, sees the doors open, and Swirydowicz says, yes, you can take it, but you're going to lose your grip. And going up towards the penultimate lap then, 2 to go. Switches the outside as Meilleur here, going all the way round. Swirydowicz still defending hard here, and can Meilleur get to the inside of 2 in time? Or will Swirydowicz carry him all the way to 3? They're going to be too wide as they come all the way round. And it looks like Meilleur right now just not able to find the final 5 yards to get this move done. Swirydowicz brings me absolutely irresolute as they go through. Oh, and it's to the wall there for Meilleur. He goes out a little bit too wide out the corner, but he's carrying all that speed. He wasn't forced out there. He was just trying to essentially steer his way around the outside, but in the end, find out the track limits out there. And as they make the way through turns 5, 6, and towards 7 right now, Swirydowicz proving that he knows the width of the circuit just enough to frustrate Meilleur and force him to have to make his own mistakes or make brushes with the barrier. But right now, for Meilleur, it's definitely one of those races whereby he wants it all. He wants to take this. He's had the pace here today. He stayed with Swirydowicz all the way through the opening stint, literally on his rear bumper. And since the rain has come, he's been looking the quicker driver. But Swirydowicz has just proven to be such a resolute driver in defence. But coming down toward turn number 11, well, Tyler Long, meanwhile, has got Zach Hidalgo closing on him after Jason Lim was passed by him a few laps ago. We might have to get a replay of that when we can. Well, Long right now under increasing pressure. And this is not going to help him out at all as they roll their way through the opening sector of the lap. And well, that pressure could really cut the tension with a knife as they roar the way onwards. And right now it's the battle of 2 teammates here, but Hidalgo would like to make it a 3rd win in 4 races if he can. He would really extend his Delta Championship lead, whereas Long would like to get back at him where possible. So it is going to be the Teams Championship. They both want the 1-2 in order to help out T0 Racing Ascent, but understandably, both drivers also got selfish aspirations here, and that's going to be on the cards. Do the team now intervene and say to them, don't fight, or do they encourage them to fight as long as they keep it clean? Well, I wouldn't want to be on that pit wall, I can tell you that, ladies and gentlemen. It would be a terrifying one as the rain does come back for a brief moment then, in towards the back end of the lap. But back to the front we go. One more lap after this one, and right now Swirydowicz defending hard into the hairpin at 17. Meilleur looking one way, then the other, and Swirydowicz goes deep. He goes way too deep into the corner, and the mistake finally happens to Swirydowicz this time as Matthew Meilleur goaded him into an error. And now the number 12 driver takes the lead this race with 30 seconds left on the clock. Can he run away? Can he take the win? And can he make it his 2nd win of the season? Well, given the gap he's got, 7 tenths, he's going to be in a good position to be able to do so, as unfortunately Micah Hendricks had to tow to the pit lane. We're not quite sure what's happened there, ladies and gentlemen. We'll try and get a replay of that. As meanwhile, Zach Hidalgo and Tyler Long getting closer and closer. Will we see Long here look for the move to come back for the lead of the Delta class? It's been swapped once. It's going to be swapped twice now, as Long's going to come back here. They've been fighting back and forth. We missed the first overtake. We're seeing the second one. The counter-attack here from Long. Gets back ahead. And right now on the brake set in towards the hairpin. Well, the rain very spotty, but understand it just tops the wall top and makes this circuit a bit unpredictable. And they're catching up to the back of John Daniels. So Daniels right now, another member of the T0 racing team. Here we're looking back behind and thinking to himself, I don't want to get involved in that. And we're trying to run away wherever possible. Dan McFarlane, he's still got the pressure of Chris McDonald. Fleet Smith is in the lead of the Gamma class right now. And well, he'll be very happy of where he is. Meanwhile, McDonald's still trying to look around the outside of what will be McFarlane. That's still going to work there, coming through turns 4, 5 and 6. Unless he can get McFarlane to make an error. But McFarlane has been absolutely resolute so far. And we're just showing how Diggy can deep in terms of his racing ability. These tries all coming around, and that's not going to work out for McDonald as he falls further back. But meanwhile, back to the front we go, and as we do, here's Swirydowicz dives up the inside there like a missile. Does he get it stopped in time? He does. Did he get to the inside of turn number 12? He doesn't, and Meilleur in the end saw it coming from a yard back and said, right, you can have that, but I'm still taking the lead back into turn 12. So brilliant racing between them as Damon Mitchell has got ahead of Chris McDonald. McDonald's made an error at turn 7 into 8 from what I'm hearing in my ear, and with the clock going to 0, this final lap right now is proving to be absolutely filled with battling. As we can see Mitchell moving back up in the third in Gamma, Chris McDonald behind, and then Jacob Simmons has fallen to 7th, and we'll go in front of, they're all in front of John Lauzon, who's trying to stay with it, but meanwhile rolling the way onwards through turns 11 and 12. That rain coming back again. In fact, this circuit is getting very slippery at the moment. I think we're going from moderate to heavy wetness. And, well, as we do look down the order, Zach Hidalgo has cleared Tyler Long, who has been involved in some sort of disconnection. And if so, that's disaster for Long. But meanwhile, coming out of turn number 17, for Matthew Meilleur here, it's just a sprint for the last couple of quarters. The checker flag awaits him. And for Matthew Meilleur, well, what a battle it's been. He took victory comfortably at Detroit. He missed St. Pete, and he's back to winning ways immediately here on the streets of Miami as he wins in the end by 5 seconds ahead of Wojciech Swirydowicz, who comes on home for second place. Does not quite have the pace in the end to chase down Meilleur after holding him off for so long. And meanwhile, 14 seconds behind for Fleet Smith. It is going to be the win that escaped him on the streets of St. Pete. He is your Gamma winner here today and third place overall. A huge result for the number 13 driver. He'll be absolutely ecstatic about that. And then we do have in the hunt for fourth place, it's going to be Dan McFarlane, who takes second place in Gamma fourth overall, with Chris McDonald being beaten to the post by Damon Mitchell, who completes the Gamma podium, 5th place in class. McDonald takes 6th ahead of Jacob Simmons on his debut. What a drive from Jacob. And it'll be John Lauzon, Matthew Shepka and Corey Lobner who complete your top 10. Nicholas Shredska finishing in length ahead of Ray Teo with John Daniels 13th. And in the Delta class, it's going to be a win for Zach Hidalgo, just ahead of Jason Lynn, who comes home second in class after Tyler Long's last lap retirement from the race due to a technical issue. You couldn't make it up for Tyler Long. You've got to feel for him. And Jason Lynn brings on home at second place in Delta. That's going to be his best result of his career. And then we will see, hold up a second, where's Mitchell Richmeyer? There he is. He disconnected and came back for a brief moment. Latency error by looks of things. And Mitchell Richmeyer takes the final spot on the Delta podium. 16th overall. Another podium for the UMAT Motorsport driver. Evan Clavio comes through and to bring home 17th place, literally by a slender margin, it would seem. Although Lewis Gilbert, in fact, I think he's a lot further back. I think there's a lap down car in the form of Gonzalez Green coming across the line 3 laps down. Apologies for the confusion there. He'll be 27th. And then we will see Lewis Gilbert round off the top 5 in the Delta class. 18th overall ahead of Kurt Smith, who comes to line there in 19th place. And then it will be Ian Bertolucci 7 seconds behind, who completes your top 20. In fact, does he? He does in the end. Our time tower playing what is silliness with us as he does come across line. And then it will be from the Gamma driver, Krista Ondra, who's going to come home in 21st place. He will be your penultimate lead lap finisher because we then got 6 seconds behind him, I believe, to Gareth McAllister, who's going to complete the lead lap finishing order. As there is Ondra, hence was the line in 21st place. And then it will be Gareth McAllister, who comes on home in 22nd in the end. And, well, the number 25 driver there, not having the happiest day in the office, but still able to get it all together. And for Gareth McAllister, well, not quite the podium he was looking for today. Been a bit of a downhill day, but still UMATA Motorsport picking up the podium there in the form of Mitchell Richmeyer. So they'll be very pleased with that. And today, it is Richmeyer who's been the celebrity for the team. But as long as they keep those podiums coming, I think they'll be absolutely jubilant regardless of who is able to achieve them. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a final lap of the race. And as all the drivers cool them down, Fleet Smith will be absolutely ecstatic about this. No doubt about it. A huge result for Fleet Smith. And in terms of how that result compares with his previous results, just to give you an idea, that is going to be what is his first ever Gamma win. He has taken an Alpha win in the past and an overall win, and that was in round number 9 of Season 14 at the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. But that was in the era of what was both the Alpha and the Delta class, not the Gamma class. So for Fleet Smith, it's his first Gamma win on the board. And also with that third place overall, it is going to be a trip to the podium once again overall for him. A long time since we've seen that happen. But as our drivers all cooling down, or some decide to celebrate in the wet out there, well, let's take a look to the scenic view. And just before we bring you those results, of course, we need to take a look back at some of the big moments in that final lap. So let's do so, ladies and gentlemen, including what exactly went wrong for none other than Micah Hendricks on the penultimate lap. So this was Hendricks making his way at the time in 9th place. Oh, it understeered wide at turn 13. A very short story there. Broke the front right suspension immediately. And for Hendricks, it all fell apart. Only yards from what was the finish in relative speak. Meanwhile, we also did see plenty of battling back and forth between Zach Hidalgo and Tyler Long. And this was on lap 20. When they were fighting hard for it, and went into the braking zone here. Long, who was leading at the time, went very deep. This was on the penultimate lap, and this led to them going too wide all the way round through turn number 12, and in the end, Hidalgo just made it all the way round the outside. So that's how they swapped it back and forth, and then, well, we did see what was this between Hidalgo and Long. And this was as they made the way onwards. So this was on the final lap. And well, Tai Long was in front of Zach Hidalgo. And as they came through into the corner, what's going to happen to Tai Long? He just has a technical issue there going in towards turn number 4. The car disappears off the circuit, and Long's race all ended just like that. You couldn't make it up, and I don't think Zach's going to believe it. And that is gut-wrenching for T0 Racing Ascent, because whilst Hidalgo would have liked to have won the race, he wouldn't have wanted to win it that way, and it means a 1-2 in the Delta class has completely slipped out of their grasp. So a nightmare ending for their race, and we also did see a bit of a nightmare end for Kurt Smith's race. This happened on lap 21. And this was Smith at the time, was already a long way down the order, but he was trying to get it on home, went his way into the hairpin, down in 20th place, 6th in the Delta class. And unfortunately, taking a bit too much water on the right-hand side tyres, and the car got escorted on. He just about missed the tyre barrier, but definitely ended his race in a bit of difficulty. But ladies and gentlemen, what an end to the race, no doubt about it. And as we take a look back at some of the big moments from the final couple of laps, let's take a look back to the scenic view, and with it, of course, those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we do come back to circuit side, well, the rain stops falling because we can stop time there. And, well, let's take a look at those race results, shall we, as here they come up on screen. And as we can see, after an absolutely epic 45 minutes of race in action in round number 3 of Season 17 of the Alpha Touring Challenge, powered by Syncmesh and Glass and Steel Photography and Design, Matthew Meilleur took victory for SRG, his second win of the season, and an absolutely major result. They're fighting hard with Wojciech Swirydowicz, and in the end, in the closing laps, was able to get close after an early mistake going to the wet tyre, was able to close that gap down, fought hard, and Swirydowicz threw everything he had at it to try and get the place back, but in the end, Meilleur was just too strong in the increasingly wet conditions here in Miami. Still, it was the battle of two Hondas, and it was 1-2 for the Japanese manufacturer, but it was the Beaver Indeed driver Wojciech Swirydowicz who had to settle for second place, and indeed, right now, and that first overall win of the season continues to escape him. Fleet Smith, third place there. Not able to stay with the two leaders who are in a world of their own today, but to be fair to him, a huge result for the Gamma driver. His first Gamma win of the season. He'll be absolutely ecstatic about that, given the fact that that result did, of course, escape him last time out in St. Petersburg. Dan McFarlane took 4th place there, and a runner-up in the Gamma class. 4th overall for the Sim Racing Grid driver. And Damon Mitchell, what a drive from him for Crop Promotions, coming all the way through, much like McFarlane, both of them starting towards what was the back end of the top 20. McFarlane from 14th and Mitchell from 17th. And Mitchell making it onto the podium there in the Gamma class of Crop Promotions. Chris McDonald, his teammate, just missed out behind him by half a second, with McDonald making a couple of slippery mistakes right at the end of the race, but still making sure to bring home some very valuable points there. And Jacob Simmons on his debut, 7th place for the privateer. 30-year Alpha drives. It doesn't mean anything in terms of extra points, but he'll be pleased with that, as he definitely held his own with the Gamma peers and even some of the Alphas around him. John Lauzon took 8th place there for Beaver and D's, looked ferociously quick before the rain came, and even when the rain did arrive, initially he was quick, but mistakes did cost him time, and he fell to 8th place. And behind the Beaver and D's driver was Kirby Enthusiasm Autosports' Matthew Shepka, We definitely had a race to two halves. In the dry, he was looking slick and quick, but in the wet, unfortunately, all gradually came undone. Corey Lubner completed the top 10 there, the privateer ahead of Nicholas Schwedzka, and we can see there the Schwedzka racing driver on his debut, best the rest in 11th place. Not quite the big result he was perhaps pursuing, but still a good starting point for the rounds ahead. Ray 2, 12th there, the Beaver and D's driver, looked good at the start of the race, but unfortunately when the rain came, it definitely held him back, with John Daniels just behind him for T0 Racing Summit. Then we did see T0 Racing Ascent's Zach Hodako, your Delta winner. However, of course, mixed feelings about it, because whilst he did take the win, it came at the expense of what was a disconnection and a technical issue, therefore, for Tyler Long, when they were so set for a 1-2 in the class and went 14th and 15th place. But instead, 15th place went to Jason Lynn for Gator Racing. And given how it all started, well, definitely today things turned around. It's his best ever result in the Delta class, with what's a second place finish, going one step further than the third place he took all the way back in season 15 in round 10. However, it's not his best overall result. He's still got to try and improve one day on a 12th place finish overall. Mitchell Richmeyer, 16th there, third of your Delta drivers, and today making it another podium for you, Matter Motorsport, and he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that. Evan Clavio, Sim Racing Grid's 17th place finisher there, just ahead of Lewis Gilbert, who rounded out the top 5 in the Delta class for Gator Racing. And then we did see Kurt Smith, 19th placer for B4Ds. Ian Bertolucci was in 20th place, and then outside that top 20, finishing in none other than 21st, it was, I do believe, Christoph Ondra. Gareth McAllister, with a late slip down the order for UMAT Motorsport, was the last league lap finisher in 22nd, and it was a lap down there for Tyler Long. Given his retirement on the final lap, he's demoted back a lap to 23rd, sadly, and the T0 Racing Ascent try ahead of Micah Hendricks for his own demise in the late stages. The Croc Promotions try coming to blows with a barrier, and indeed not the way he wanted it to go on the final lap at turn number 13. And we also did see Major Monsfire fish a lap down for T0 Racing Summit after a dismal start for him, being turned before he got to turn 1, and Carl Trost as well a lap down at the finish line. It was 3 laps down to the third of our debutants today of Alexander Gonzalez Green. Unfortunately, the open lap for the Mexican driver did not go well, but to be fair, good on him for sticking with it and getting to the finish line and getting home some valuable points. Unfortunately, along the way, we did lose Logan McKinzie, as we did lose Aaron Lahr, third hour originally, Spencer Clark, Nathan Hempley, and Michael Bowman, and we also did lose along the way there. Well, in fact, that was all the field we did lose along the way, but we did see non-starts, of course, for Clark, Hempley, and Bowman. Things did not work out whatsoever. But what about the individual class finishing positions, I hear you are? Starting with the Gammas then, because there'll be bonus points up for grabs. And here we can see Fleet Smith bringing on home and the Gamma class victory for B4Ds, head of Dan McFarlane and Damon Mitchell. And the Croc Promotions driver there finishing third in class, just ahead of his teammate of Chris McDonald. John Lauzon, fifth there for B4Ds, a little bit further behind, but 5 seconds ahead of Matthew Shepka. It was Corey Lubner, Nicholas Schwedzka, John Daniels, and Ian Bertolucci completing that top 10. It was a lap down to Major Monsvai and 3 laps down to Alexander Gonzalez Green. Then to the Delta class we go very quickly. And as we can see in the third tier of our classes, but by no means any lesser, it was Zach Hodako, who now makes it 3 wins in 4 races. He's definitely building a bit of a win streak this season. Also, the T0 Racing Ascent try had to work very hard today to finish on that podium, let alone take the win, and aided by the unfortunate demise of his teammate of Tyler Long. Jason Lynn run up today for Gator Racing, 11 seconds behind, but 12 seconds ahead of Mitchell Richmeyer for UMAT Motorsport, and it was 17 seconds back to Evan Clavio ahead of Lewis Gilbert. We did have Kurt Smith, 6th there for B4Ds, ahead of Christoph Ondra, and then Gareth McAllister was a further 8 seconds behind, and last Delta tried to finish on the lead lap, with Tyler Long retiring on the final lap, and therefore demoted back to 9th place, a lap down, and it was a lap down as well for Carl Trost, who finished under his own steam for T0 Racing Ascent. Sadly, along the way, we had non-finishes for Aaron Lahr and third hour Ridgely, and we had non-starts for Spencer Clark, Nathan Hempley, and Michael Bowman. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that completes our rundown of the race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, and it completes our time here at the Miami International Autodrome. And well, for some drivers, it was a day of swimming with the dolphins, and others were able to keep their heads high above troubled seas, and were able to take some big results. But with that, it is, of course, time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the AlphaTouring Challenge, well, the good news is you can find out very easily all about this series, and all you need to do is go to the official website, and that is our website at alphatouringchallenge.com, displayed on screen. It's one of the best websites you can go to for any sim racing series. In fact, I put it out there and say it's probably the best out there, because you've got all the information you need on the homepage. You've got all the latest news articles right from the start. You've got on the right the Hall of Famers, the defending champions, and all the information you do need if if you want to get up to speed with the statistics, and if you want even more information, of course, you do have the tabs at the top of your screen where you can get all the information you need for Season 17 if you are looking to get on the grid with us here at the AlphaTouring Challenge. Also, you do have access to all the broadcasts of this season and the previous seasons and all the history as well. And also, if you're looking to buy some merchandise, you even have access to the shop up there. And indeed, a complete compendium if you want to know anything ATC. We'd also like to take a moment and say a big thank you to our series partners, who do include Syncmesh first and foremost. And to tell you a little bit more about Syncmesh, born out of the pursuit of one man's search for better gear for sim racing, Syncmesh is the company which provides purpose-built gear for sim racing, ranging from gloves through to full line of performance wear. With an obsessive attention to detail in their gear, which aligns with your attention to detail in nailing lap after lap on the simulator, you could not ask for better gear to make your racing experience better. So if you'd like to know more, do head to sync-mesh.com today. And we'd also like to give a big thank you to our series partner of Glass and Steel Photography and Design. Now, the AlphaTouring Challenge's official photographer, who you've seen go racing today and take second in the Delta class, of Jason Lynn, is a highly talented and approachable individual who provides both photography and livery design services for the iRacing simulator platform. This being all part of Glass and Steel Photography and Design. But do not just take our word for it. With 5-star reviews from his clientele citing him as easy to work with, detail-orientated, and a very fast responder, if you're looking for pixel-precise photography or a livery design to dominate the competition, then why not head to his website at glassnsteel1.wordpress.com today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we've got time for today. And next time out, we'll be making our way to the Barber Motorsports Park in the US state of Alabama. It has been recently refreshed in real life, and that refreshed circuit has been rescanned into iRacing. So therefore, it's going to feel old but new for our drivers. And well, on Monday, the 11th of May, 2026, they'll be taking it on for another 2 25-minute sprint races. But we're going to be bringing you all the racing action as if it were live for round number 4 on Tuesday, the 12th of May. And how exactly did they go into that round, I hear you ask? Well, at the very front of the field, it's continued to be a very tight fight, with Matthew Meilleur today bringing home his second win and we're launching himself right back up into the midst of the top of the standings. Where Wojciech Swirydowicz looking fast, Logan McKinzie having a difficult day in the office, and also we did get to see the absence of Michael Polasek, where it could be all to play for once again at Barber when we see all 4 of them back on the grid, hopefully. In the Gamma class, meanwhile, well, we got to see some very impressive performances, but Fleet Smith finally landing that win that escaped him so far this season. And can he now start to build up a bit of momentum and build up a streak on the podium at least? Or will his rivals be able to strike back strongly? And as for the Delta class, Zach Hidalgo, 3 wins in 4 races thus far. But understanding the pressure is on, particularly from his teammate Tyler Long. But also keep in mind that plenty of our Delta class drivers, including Jason Lynn, and also out there the likes of Mitchell Richmeyer and also Gareth McAllister, are all looking impressively quick. So the story will continue in a week's time, but until then, we have been the AlphaTouring Challenge. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.